Chloe Whitmore sat in the cold gray courthouse, staring at the man she was about to marry. A broke mechanic in worn-out jeans who smelled like engine grease. She'd built a $1 billion logistics empire by 32, crushed Wall Street sharks, and never let anyone see her bleed. But now her dying grandfather was forcing her into this humiliating deal: marry this stranger or lose everything to her worst enemy. What she didn't know was that the quiet single father beside her wasn't who he claimed to be. He was hiding a secret so explosive it could bring down governments, destroy criminal empires, and reshape the entire global financial system. If you want to see how a ruthless CEO and a mysterious mechanic become the most dangerous power couple in New York, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain hammered against the courthouse windows like bullets, and Chloe Whitmore wondered if this was what humiliation felt like. She sat on a metal bench in a hallway that smelled like disinfectant and old coffee, wearing a perfectly tailored cream dress that cost more than most people made in 3 months. Her hands were folded in her lap, fingers interlaced, knuckles white. Across from her sat the man she was about to marry, a complete stranger named Elias Mercer. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired you got from pulling all-nighters closing deals, or flying first class across time zones. The kind of tired that came from working double shifts and raising a kid alone in a city that didn't give a damn about either of you. Elias wore dark jeans and a navy button-down that was clean but wrinkled, like he'd ironed it himself and given up halfway through. His hands were rough, nails permanently stained with grease no amount of scrubbing would ever fully remove. He sat with his shoulders hunched slightly forward, staring at the scuffed linoleum floor, and didn't say a word. Next to him, his daughter swung her legs back and forth, her sneakers lighting up with each kick. Lily was 6 years old, all dark curls and wide brown eyes, clutching a stuffed rabbit that had clearly seen better days. She hummed softly to herself, completely oblivious to the bizarre transaction about to take place. Chloe hated this. She hated that her grandfather had put her in this position. She hated that her entire future, the empire she'd bled to build, hung on whether or not she went through with this ridiculous charade. Most of all, she hated that the man sitting across from her looked so damn unbothered by the whole thing. "Miss Whitmore?" The clerk's voice cut through the silence. A middle-aged woman with reading glasses on a chain stood in the doorway, holding a clipboard. "We're ready for you." Chloe stood, smoothing the front of her dress, even though it didn't need smoothing. Elias got to his feet more slowly, reaching down to take Lily's hand. The little girl looked up at him. "Are we going home soon, Daddy?" "Soon, sweetheart." His voice was low, quiet. Not weak, just controlled, like he was used to keeping everything locked down tight. Chloe followed them into the small courtroom. It wasn't anything like the grand wedding she'd been invited to over the years, the kind with string quartets and champagne towers and guest lists that read like the Forbes 400. This was a paint-by-numbers civil ceremony, a judge who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. 2 court-appointed witnesses who didn't even glance up from their phones. The judge cleared his throat. "Elias James Mercer and Chloe Ann Whitmore, please step forward." They did. Chloe kept her spine straight, her chin high. She'd perfected this posture in boardrooms full of men who wanted to watch her fail. She wasn't about to let it slip now. Elias stood beside her, close enough that she could smell faint traces of motor oil and soap. He didn't look at her. The judge started reading from a laminated card, his tone flat and mechanical. "Marriage is a legal contract recognized by the state of New York, entered into willingly by 2 consenting adults." Chloe tuned him out. Her mind was already 3 moves ahead, running through contingencies. Once this was done, she'd have 60 days to present proof of marriage to the board. Her grandfather's will was ironclad: marry within 30 days of his death, or controlling interest in Sterling Logistics went to Richard Hale, the backstabbing vulture who'd been circling her company for years. She'd spent 2 weeks after the funeral tearing apart every legal loophole she could find. There weren't any. The old man had made sure of that. So here she was, marrying a mechanic from Queens because her grandfather had decided, in his final act of meddling, that what she really needed was a husband. "Do you, Elias James Mercer, take Chloe Ann Whitmore to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Elias hesitated. Just for a second. Then he nodded. "I do." "And do you, Chloe Ann Whitmore, take Elias James Mercer to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Chloe didn't hesitate. "I do." Then by the power vested in me by the state of New York, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Chloe turned to Elias. He looked at her for the first time since they'd entered the room. His eyes were dark, unreadable. For a moment she thought he might actually go through with it. Instead, he just extended his hand. She shook it. The judge blinked. All right then. Congratulations. Lily tugged on Elias's sleeve. Did you get married, Daddy? Yeah, kiddo, we did. Does that mean she's my mom now? Chloe's jaw tightened. Elias crouched down so he was eye level with his daughter. It means she's part of our family, but you don't have to call her anything you don't want to, okay? Lily considered this, then turned to Chloe with the blunt curiosity only a 6-year-old could muster. Do you like pizza? Chloe stared at her. Yes? Good. Daddy burns it sometimes. Elias stood, a faint flicker of something, amusement, maybe, crossing his face before disappearing. They signed the paperwork in silence. Chloe's signature was sharp and precise. Elias's was slower, deliberate, like he was thinking through every letter. 20 minutes later, they walked out of the courthouse as husband and wife. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and gleaming under the gray afternoon light. Chloe's driver was waiting at the curb in a black SUV. She moved toward it without a word. Miss Whitmore. She stopped, turned. Elias was standing on the sidewalk with Lily, her small hand wrapped in his. We need to talk about logistics. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Logistics? Where we're living, how this works. She almost laughed. Almost. Instead, she pulled her phone from her purse and opened her calendar. My assistant will send you the address. You and your daughter will move into my penthouse by the end of the week. You'll have your own rooms. Stay out of my way, don't make a scene, and we'll get through this just fine. Elias didn't flinch. And after? After what? After we've satisfied whatever clause your grandfather put in his will, what happens then? Chloe met his gaze. Then you go back to your life, I go back to mine, and we pretend this never happened. He studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Fair enough. She climbed into the SUV and didn't look back. Cut. The penthouse was on the 52nd floor of a building in Tribeca, all floor-to-ceiling windows and polished marble. Chloe had bought it 5 years ago, right after Sterling Logistics went public. It was her sanctuary, the one place in the world where she didn't have to perform. Now it was about to be invaded. She stood in the living room that evening, staring out at the city lights, a glass of wine in her hand. Her assistant, Grace, sat on the couch behind her, tablet in hand. They're scheduled to move in on Saturday, Grace said. I've arranged for movers to handle his belongings. Should I have the guest wing prepared? Yes. 2 bedrooms, one for him, one for the girl. Lily, Chloe turned. What? Her name is Lily. Grace's tone was carefully neutral. I thought you might want to know. Chloe took a sip of wine. Fine. Lily. Grace hesitated. Chloe, can I ask you something? No. Why him? Chloe set her glass down on the marble counter harder than she meant to. Because my grandfather was a sentimental idiot who thought I needed saving, and Elias Mercer was convenient. Convenient how? He needed money. I needed a husband. My lawyers vetted him. No criminal record, no debts, no skeletons, just a widower trying to keep his head above water. It was clean. And you trust him? Chloe laughed, sharp and humorless. I don't trust anyone, Grace. That's why I'm still standing. Saturday came too fast. Chloe had spent the morning in her office, ignoring the fact that her home was about to be turned into a reality show she never auditioned for. When she finally returned to the penthouse around 3, the movers were already there. They were hauling boxes into the guest wing, cheap cardboard boxes labeled in shaky handwriting, Lily's toys, kitchen stuff, books. Elias stood in the hallway, directing traffic with the kind of calm efficiency that came from managing chaos on a daily basis. He'd traded his wrinkled button-down for a plain gray t-shirt and jeans, and somehow looked even more out of place in her world. Lily was running laps around the living room, her light-up sneakers flashing with every step. Daddy, this place is huge. Can I have a puppy? No. What about a fish? We'll talk about it later. Chloe cleared her throat. Elias turned, and for a second, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or discomfort. Then it was gone. Miss Whitmore. It's Mrs. Mercer now, technically. She regretted the words the second they left her mouth. They sounded petty. Elias didn't rise to the bait. Right, we'll be out of your way in an hour. Take your time. She retreated to her bedroom and shut the door. But an hour turned into 2. By the time Chloe emerged, the movers were gone, and the penthouse had settled into an uneasy quiet. She found Elias in the kitchen, unpacking a box of mismatched dishes. You don't have to do that, she said. I have a housekeeper. I know, Grace mentioned. He set a chipped mug on the counter, but Lily's particular about her plates. Thought I'd put them somewhere she could reach. Chloe leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. Where is she? Asleep. It's been a long day. Silence stretched between them. Elias went back to unpacking. Chloe watched him, trying to figure out what angle he was playing. Everyone had an angle. But this man, well, this quiet, grease-stained mechanic, was impossible to read. Why did you agree to this? She asked finally. He didn't look up. Same reason you did. I needed something you could give me. Money. Stability. He closed the empty box, folded it flat. Lily deserves better than what I've been able to give her. A good school. A safe place to live. Your grandfather's lawyer made it clear this arrangement would provide that. And you're okay with being bought? Now he looked at her. His eyes were dark, steady, and for the first time, Chloe saw something in them that unsettled her. Not anger. Not resentment. Resignation. Everyone's for sale, Miss Whitmore. The only difference is the price. He walked past her, carrying the flattened box toward the recycling, and left her standing alone in the kitchen. The first week was an exercise in avoidance. Chloe left for the office before Elias and Lily woke up. She came home late, long after Lily's bedtime, and went straight to her room. They existed in the same space like ghosts, passing through each other's lives without ever really touching. It was exactly what she wanted, except it wasn't, because strange things started happening. It began small. A deal with a shipping conglomerate in Singapore that had been dead in the water for months suddenly came back to life. The CEO, who'd been dodging her calls, sent a personal email offering terms better than anything Chloe had proposed. Then a lawsuit filed by a former partner, a nuisance case designed to tie up her legal team and drain resources, was abruptly withdrawn. No explanation, just a terse notice from the plaintiff's attorney. And then Richard Hale, the man who'd been circling Sterling Logistics like a shark, went radio silent. Chloe didn't believe in coincidences. She called an emergency meeting with her legal team, sat them down in the conference room and demanded answers. Someone is interfering with my company, she said. I want to know who. Her head counsel, a sharp-eyed woman named Margaret, frowned. Interfering how? Deals that should be dead are coming back. Legal threats are disappearing. Competitors are backing off. Chloe leaned forward. This doesn't happen by accident. Margaret exchanged a glance with the junior associate beside her. Could it be your grandfather's estate? Maybe there were contingencies we didn't know about. No, I've been through every document. There's nothing. Then, I don't know what to tell you, Chloe. If someone's helping you, they're doing it quietly. Too quietly. Chloe dismissed the meeting and sat alone in the conference room, staring at the skyline. Her instincts were screaming that something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on what. That night, she came home to find Elias in the living room, reading on the couch. Lily was curled up next to him, asleep with her head on his shoulder. He looked up when Chloe walked in. Long day? Always. She set her bag down, hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you know anything about shipping contracts or corporate law? Elias's expression didn't change. I fix cars for a living. Why would I know about that? I don't know, just asking. He studied her for a moment, then carefully shifted Lily in his arms and stood. I should get her to bed. Chloe watched him carry his daughter down the hall, moving with the kind of practiced ease that came from years of late-night routines. He didn't stumble, didn't complain, just did what needed to be done. And for some reason, that bothered her more than anything else. 10. The charity gala was 2 weeks later. Chloe hated these events. They were performances, Elaborate theater where New York's elite pretended to care about causes while really just measuring each other's net worth. But attendance was mandatory if you wanted to stay relevant, so she went. What she hadn't planned on was bringing Elias. It's a couples event, Grace had explained over the phone. You're married now. People will notice if you show up alone. Let them notice. Chloe, you're trying to prove stability to the board. A solo appearance 2 weeks after your wedding sends the wrong message. So here they were. Elias stood in the penthouse living room wearing a rented tuxedo that fit him surprisingly well. He looked uncomfortable, tugging at his collar like it was a noose. I don't belong at these things, he said. Chloe finished fastening her earrings. Neither do half the people there. You'll fit right in. That's not reassuring. She turned to face him. He looked different in formal wear, less like a mechanic and more like someone who could hold his own in her world. Almost. Just stay close, don't talk to anyone unless you have to, and we'll be out in 2 hours. And if someone asks how we met, Chloe grabbed her clutch, tell them the truth. We got married in a courthouse because my grandfather was a meddling bastard. It'll give them something to gossip about. Elias almost smiled. You're really committed to this whole Ice Queen thing, aren't you? It's not a thing. It's a survival strategy. They took her car to the venue, a historic mansion on the Upper East Side that had been converted into an event space. The ballroom was already packed with people Chloe recognized. Investors, board members, competitors, everyone dressed to the nines, everyone smiling like sharks. She felt Elias tense beside her as they entered. Relax, she murmured. They can smell fear. That's encouraging. They made it about 10 minutes before Richard Hale found them. He appeared out of the crowd like a bad penny, all polished charm and venom. Richard was 53, silver-haired, and believed the world owed him everything Chloe had earned. Chloe, how lovely to see you. She smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. Richard. His gaze slid to Elias. And this must be the infamous husband. Elias, was it? Elias nodded. That's right. Richard's smile widened. I have to say, when I heard Chloe had gotten married, I was shocked. I didn't think she had it in her. He leaned in conspiratorially. Tell me, what's it like being Mr. Whitmore? Must be quite the adjustment. Chloe's fingers tightened around her champagne glass. But before she could say anything, Elias spoke. It's Mercer, actually, and it's fine. Richard blinked. I'm sorry? My name. It's Mercer. She didn't take mine. I didn't take hers. We're both adults. We figured we could handle it. There was a beat of silence. Then Richard laughed, loud and condescending. Of course. How modern. He turned back to Chloe. I heard about the Singapore deal. Congratulations. I'm sure your grandfather would be proud. I'm sure he would. Though I have to wonder, Richard swirled his drink. How much of your recent success is actually yours, and how much is just luck? Chloe felt her temper flare. Luck. Well, you have to admit things have been falling into place rather conveniently lately. Almost like someone's been pulling strings behind the scenes. If you have something to say, Richard, say it. He shrugged. Just an observation. You've always been good at taking credit for other people's work. Before Chloe could respond, Elias stepped forward. Not aggressively, just enough to put himself between her and Richard. You're Richard Hale, right? His voice was calm, almost casual. Richard frowned. Yes, and you are. Nobody important, just a mechanic from Queens. Elias smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I heard you tried to acquire Sterling Logistics last year. Hostile takeover, wasn't it? Richard's expression darkened. That was a business decision. Right, business, except you leveraged offshore accounts to hide the source of your funding. Accounts in the Caymans, specifically. Accounts tied to a shell corporation that's currently under federal investigation for money laundering. The color drained from Richard's face. Chloe stared at Elias. What are you... I also heard, Elias continued, his tone still maddeningly calm, that you've been feeding insider information to a competitor, someone who's been shorting Sterling stock for the past 6 months. That's securities fraud, isn't it? Richard's jaw worked, but no sound came out. Elias tilted his head. I'm just a mechanic, so maybe I'm wrong, but if I were you, I'd be more worried about my own situation than Chloe's. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Richard turned on his heel and walked away, moving fast enough that it almost looked like running. Chloe grabbed Elias's arm and pulled him toward the terrace. Boamo, chisip matam. The cool night air hit her like a slap. She rounded on Elias, heart pounding. What the hell was that? He leaned against the railing, looking out at the city. He was being an ass. I don't care what he was being. How did you know about the offshore accounts, the shell corporations? That's not public information. I read. Bullshit. Elias turned to face her. In the dim light, his expression was unreadable. You wanted me to stay close and not talk to anyone. I talked to someone. My mistake. That wasn't talking. That was... Chloe stopped, trying to find the right word. That was insider knowledge. Information you shouldn't have. Maybe I overheard it somewhere. Where? Does it matter? Yes, Chloe snapped. It matters. Because either you're lying about who you are, or someone is feeding you information about my company without my knowledge. Either way, I need to know. Elias held her gaze for a long moment. Then he sighed. I'm not lying about who I am. I'm a mechanic. I fix cars. I raise my daughter. That's it. Then explain. Some things are better left alone, Chloe. He walked past her, back into the ballroom, leaving her standing on the terrace with more questions than answers. Gawk. She couldn't let it go. For the next 3 days, Chloe dug into Elias Mercer's background with the kind of focus she usually reserved for hostile acquisitions. She pulled his credit report, his employment history, his tax returns. She hired a private investigator, one of the best in the city, and gave him carte blanche. I want to know everything, she said. Where he grew up, where he went to school, who his friends are. Everything. The investigator called her 72 hours later. Miss Whitmore, we need to talk. They met in a coffee shop in Midtown. The investigator, a wiry man named Caruso, slid a folder across the table. This is everything I could find on Elias Mercer. Chloe opened it. Inside were photocopies of documents, birth certificate, social security card, high school diploma. All legitimate, all normal. Okay, she said slowly. And? And that's the problem. Caruso leaned forward. Everything checks out, too perfectly. What do you mean? I mean, his paper trail is clean, spotless. No gaps, no inconsistencies. But when I started digging deeper, talking to former employers, old neighbors, people who should remember him, I got nothing. It's like he materialized out of thin air 6 years ago. Chloe's stomach twisted. That's impossible. Not if someone built his identity from scratch. Why would someone do that? Caruso shrugged. Witness protection, organized crime, corporate espionage, could be anything. But whoever Elias Mercer is, he's not just a mechanic from Queens. Chloe closed the folder. Her hands were shaking. Keep digging. Miss Whitmore, with all due respect, if this guy's got the kind of resources to create a bulletproof fake identity, he's got the resources to know I'm looking into him. And if he knows that, I don't care. Keep digging. Caruso sighed. It's your funeral. Boy. She confronted Elias that night. He was in the kitchen making dinner. Something simple, pasta and vegetables. Lily was at the table coloring in a workbook. The scene was so aggressively normal that it made Chloe's skin crawl. Lily, go to your room. The little girl looked up, startled. Elias set down the spatula. Chloe, now. Lily glanced at her father. He nodded. It's okay, sweetheart. Go ahead. Once Lily was gone, Chloe shut the kitchen door. Who are you? Elias turned off the stove. We've been over this. No, we've been over your cover story. Now I want the truth. She pulled out her phone, opened the investigator's report. Elias Mercer didn't exist before 6 years ago. Every document, every record, it's all fabricated. So I'll ask you again. Who are you? Elias stared at her for a long moment. Then he leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. You should fire your investigator. He's sloppy. Answer the question. I can't. Can't or won't? Both. Chloe felt something hot and sharp twist in her chest. I let you into my home. I trusted... You didn't trust me, Elias interrupted. You tolerated me because you had to. There's a difference. You're right. I didn't trust you, and now I know why. She turned to leave. His voice stopped her. Chloe, wait. Why? So you can lie to me again? I've never lied to you. She spun around. Everything about you is a lie. No. His voice was quiet, but there was steel underneath it. I told you I'm a mechanic. I am. I told you I'm raising my daughter alone. I am. Everything else, everything you think you need to know, doesn't matter. It matters to me. Why? Because you can't control it? Elias pushed off the counter, took a step toward her. You want everything in neat little boxes, Chloe. Contracts, terms, conditions. But some things don't fit in boxes. Then what are you? He stopped just a few feet away, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight he carried. I'm someone trying to keep my daughter safe, that's all you need to know. Safe from what? From people who ask too many questions. The words hung between them like a threat. Chloe's phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Finally, she looked down. 3 missed calls from Grace, 4 texts, each more urgent than the last. Turn on the news. Now. Chloe, this is bad. She opened her news app. The headline made her blood run cold. Sterling Logistics under federal investigation. CEO Chloe Whitmore accused of fraud. Elias moved beside her, reading over her shoulder. His expression didn't change. When did this break? He asked. 10 minutes ago. Chloe scrolled through the article, her heart pounding. Anonymous sources, allegations of insider trading, falsified documents. It was Richard. It had to be. Her phone rang. Grace. Talk to me, Chloe said, putting it on speaker. It's all over the financial networks. The board is panicking. Half of them are calling for an emergency meeting. The other half are lawyering up. Chloe, this is... I know what it is. Stall them. I need 12 hours. 12 hours to do what? Fix this. She hung up, looked at Elias. I need to go. Where? My office. I need to get ahead of this before... The penthouse lights went out. Chloe froze. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, bathing everything in dim red. What the hell? Elias grabbed her arm. Get away from the windows. What? Why? Now! The urgency in his voice cut through her confusion. She let him pull her toward the hallway. That's when she heard it. The sound of the elevator, rising, stopping, on their floor. Elias's entire demeanor changed. The tired mechanic disappeared, replaced by something cold and focused. How many exits does this place have? Just the elevator and the service stairs. Why, take Lily and go to the stairs. Lock yourselves in the stairwell and don't come out until I get you. Elias, what's happening? The elevator doors opened. 4 men stepped out. They were dressed in black tactical gear, faces obscured by masks, and they were armed. Chloe's breath caught. Elias shoved her behind him. Go, now! One of the men raised his weapon. Elias moved. What happened next didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. Elias wasn't a mechanic, wasn't a tired single father. He was something else entirely. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, grabbed the gunman's wrist, and twisted. The sound of bone breaking echoed through the penthouse. The gun clattered to the floor. Elias caught it before it hit the ground, reversed his grip, and fired. 2 shots. 2 men down. The remaining attackers scattered. Elias didn't hesitate. He moved through the penthouse like a ghost, every movement precise, controlled, lethal. Chloe stood frozen, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. This wasn't possible. The 3rd man came at Elias from the side. Elias sidestepped, drove his elbow into the man's throat, and dropped him in seconds. The 4th man fired. The bullet missed Elias by inches, punching into the wall behind him. Elias returned fire. The man went down. Silence. Elias stood in the middle of her living room, breathing hard, the gun still in his hand. Blood spattered across his gray t-shirt. None of it his. He turned to Chloe. Are you hurt? She couldn't speak, couldn't move. Elias crossed to her, grabbed her shoulders. Chloe, are you hurt? No, I don't. What? We need to move. There'll be more. More? Elias, what the hell is... The sound of helicopter rotors filled the air. Chloe looked up. Through the massive windows, she could see a black chopper descending toward the building's rooftop. Elias pulled out a phone she'd never seen him carry and dialed. It's me. We're blown. I need extraction. Now. Whoever was on the other end responded. Elias listened, then hung up. Grab Lily, we're leaving. Chloe's legs finally remembered how to work. She ran to Lily's room. The little girl was huddled in the corner, clutching her rabbit, tears streaming down her face. It's okay, baby, Chloe heard herself saying. We're going somewhere safe. She scooped Lily up. The girl wrapped her arms around Chloe's neck and didn't let go. Elias was waiting in the hallway. He'd grabbed a bag, a go bag, Chloe realized, packed and ready, like he'd been expecting this. They took the stairs. Elias led the way, moving fast but controlled, the gun still in his hand. They burst onto the rooftop just as the helicopter touched down. The side door opened. A man in tactical gear waved them forward. Elias lifted Lily into the chopper first, then turned to Chloe. Get in. Not until you tell me what's happening. Chloe, tell me. He grabbed her hand, pulled her close enough that she could hear him over the roar of the rotors. My name isn't Elias Mercer. And the people who just tried to kill you won't stop until they get what they want. Which is? Me. He pushed her into the helicopter, climbed in after her. The door slammed shut, and they were airborne. Chloe looked down at the city disappearing beneath them, at the penthouse she'd called home, at the life she'd built. All of it was gone. She turned to the man beside her, the stranger she'd married, the father she'd underestimated, the ghost who'd just saved her life. Who are you? Elias met her eyes, and for the first time she saw the truth in them. Someone who's been running for a very long time. The helicopter banked east, and the city lights blurred into darkness. The helicopter touched down 40 minutes later on a private airstrip somewhere in New Jersey. Chloe had lost track of direction after the first 10 minutes, her mind still trying to piece together what had just happened. Lily had fallen asleep in Elias's arms, her face pressed against his shoulder, the stuffed rabbit dangling from one small hand. Chloe watched them in the dim cabin light, watched the way Elias held his daughter like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. The tactical team member who'd pulled them aboard spoke into his headset, then turned to Elias. Vehicles ready, perimeter secure. Elias nodded. How many came through? 4 at the penthouse, 2 more intercepted in the stairwell, clean sweep. Bodies? Already gone. Your people are scrubbing the scene now. Chloe's head snapped up. My people? What the hell does that mean? The team member glanced at Elias, who shook his head slightly. The man went silent. The helicopter door opened. Outside, a black armored SUV idled on the tarmac, engine running. Elias climbed out first, still carrying Lily. Chloe followed, her heels unsteady on the concrete. Get in, Elias said. She didn't move. Not until you start explaining. Chloe. No. I just watched you kill 4 men in my living room. I'm in a helicopter I didn't call, heading to a location I don't know, with a man who apparently has a private security team and a fake identity. She crossed her arms. So you're going to explain, or I'm walking? Elias looked at her for a long moment. Then he handed Lily to one of the team members. Put her in the car. Keep the doors locked. Once they were alone on the tarmac, he turned back to Chloe. You want the truth? Fine. My real name is Nathan Vanguard. 6 years ago, I was the managing director of the largest private equity fund in the world. I controlled assets worth more than most countries' GDP, and then my wife was murdered because of it. Chloe felt the air leave her lungs. Nathan continued, his voice flat, like he was reciting facts from a report. Her name was Sarah. She was an emergency room surgeon. We met at a charity event. She didn't care about money or power or any of that. She just wanted to save lives. He paused. They killed her in our driveway. Lily was 3. She watched it happen. Who? Chloe's voice came out as a whisper. Who killed her? A syndicate. International criminals who wanted access to the financial networks I controlled. When I refused, they decided to send a message. His jaw tightened. After Sarah died, I had a choice. I could use my resources to hunt them down, start a war that would put Lily in even more danger. Or I could disappear. So you became Elias Mercer. Yes. I buried Nathan Vanguard, liquidated what I could without raising red flags, and moved to Queens. Fixed cars. Raised my daughter. Stayed off the grid. He met her eyes. And it worked. For 6 years it worked. Until my grandfather found you. Nathan nodded. James Whitmore was one of the few people who knew the truth. We'd worked together years ago, back when Sterling was expanding into Asia. He reached out 3 months ago through a secure channel, said he was dying, said you were in trouble and needed protection. Chloe's mind raced. Protection from what? From the same people who killed Sarah. They'd been targeting major corporations, using them as fronts to launder money and move assets. Sterling Logistics was next on their list. That's insane. Sterling is clean. I've built every system myself. You're not the problem. Richard Hale is. Nathan pulled out his phone, opened a folder of documents. He's been working with them for 18 months. The hostile takeover attempt last year wasn't about business. It was about control. If he'd succeeded, Sterling would have become another shell in their network. Chloe took the phone, scrolling through bank records, wire transfers, encrypted communications. Her hands shook. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because the less you knew, the safer you were. Your grandfather's plan was simple. Marry you to someone they'd never suspect, someone who could protect you without drawing attention. A mechanic from Queens with no connections, no history. He laughed bitterly. It should have worked. What changed? You hired an investigator. Chloe's stomach dropped. Caruso. He's good. Too good. Started asking questions in the wrong places. Triggered alarms in systems I thought I'd dismantled years ago. Nathan rubbed his face. The people hunting me have eyes everywhere. Once they knew someone was digging into Elias Mercer, it was only a matter of time before they put it together. So those men at the penthouse were sent to kill me. You and Lily were collateral damage. The words hit her like a fist. She'd brought this down on them. Her paranoia, her need for control, her inability to just let things be. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know. You couldn't have known. Nathan took his phone back. But now they know where I am, which means we can't stay in one place. What are we supposed to do? Disappear. Again. Chloe looked at the SUV, at the shadow of Lily visible through the tinted windows. For how long? As long as it takes. She thought about Sterling Logistics, the board meeting she was supposed to be preparing for, the investigation that was probably tearing her company apart right now. I can't just disappear. I have a company to run. Your company is the least of your problems right now. Easy for you to say. You already gave up your life once. Nathan's expression hardened. I gave up my life to save my daughters. Don't lecture me about sacrifice. They stared at each other. The tension stretched thin enough to snap. Finally, Chloe broke. What about Richard? If he's working with them, I'll handle Richard. How? The same way I've been handling your competitors for the past month, quietly. Chloe blinked. That was you? The Singapore deal? The lawsuit? I told you I'd stay out of your way. I didn't say I'd leave you defenseless. Nathan started toward the SUV. Get in the car, Chloe. We need to move. She followed him, mind spinning. The man she'd dismissed as a broke mechanic had been manipulating her business landscape for weeks, protecting her from threats she didn't even know existed. Inside the SUV, Lily was still asleep in her car seat. Chloe slid in beside her while Nathan took the front passenger seat. The driver pulled away without a word. They drove for 2 hours. Out of New Jersey, through Pennsylvania, into countryside that looked like it had been abandoned by civilization decades ago. Finally, they turned onto a dirt road that led to a compound hidden behind trees and fencing. The gate opened automatically. They pulled up to a low building that looked more like a bunker than a house. Where are we? Chloe asked. Somewhere safe. Nathan opened his door. Come on. Inside, the building was surprisingly comfortable. Clean furniture, modern kitchen, bedrooms with actual beds. It looked lived in, like people used it regularly. Nathan carried Lily to one of the bedrooms and laid her down gently. The little girl stirred but didn't wake. He pulled a blanket over her, then stepped back into the hallway where Chloe waited. How many of these places do you have? Enough. He walked past her into the main room, poured himself a glass of water from the sink. There's food in the fridge, bathrooms down the hall. Get some sleep. Sleep? Chloe almost laughed. You think I can sleep after tonight? You should try. Tomorrow's going to be worse. How could it possibly be worse? Nathan set down his glass. Because tomorrow we go on the offensive. Against who? The syndicate? You just said they have eyes everywhere. Oh. Not against them. Against Richard Hale. He pulled out his phone again, started typing. He made this personal when he came after you. Now I'm going to make him regret it. Chloe watched him work, fingers flying across the screen with the kind of speed that came from years of practice. What are you doing? Calling in favors, activating assets, setting traps. He didn't look up. By morning, Richard Hale is going to wish he'd never heard the name Whitmore. You can't just watch me. She should have been horrified. Should have stopped him. But standing there in that bunker in the middle of nowhere, watching this man systematically dismantle her enemy, Chloe felt something she hadn't felt in years. Relief. For the first time since her grandfather died, she wasn't alone in this fight. Nathan finished whatever he was doing and pocketed his phone. You should get some rest. I don't think I can. Then sit. We need to talk about what happens next. They sat at the small kitchen table. Nathan pulled out a laptop, opened files that looked like they contained half the financial records in the Western Hemisphere. Sterling Logistics is bleeding, he said. The federal investigation is real, even if the evidence is fabricated. Richard's been planning documents for months, building a case against you. Can we prove they're fake? Eventually. But the damage is already done. Your stock is tanking. Investors are panicking. The board's going to demand your resignation by Monday. Chloe's chest tightened. So I lose everything. Not everything. Not if we move fast. Nathan turned the laptop toward her. I've been tracking Richard's network. He's sloppy, arrogant, thinks he's untouchable because the syndicate is backing him. Isn't he? No one's untouchable. Nathan pulled up a series of wire transfers. He's been moving money through offshore accounts. Millions. The syndicate's paying him to destabilize Sterling, but he's skimming off the top. They don't know it yet. Chloe leaned forward, studying the numbers. How did you get this? I still have access to certain systems. Ghosts in the machine from my old life. He zoomed in on one particular transfer. This is the key. Richard moved $2 million last week through a shell company in Panama. If we can trace it back to him, we can prove he's dirty. The feds won't care about offshore accounts. They're investigating me, not him. They will care when we show them that Richard's been committing securities fraud for 18 months, that he's working with international criminals, that every piece of evidence against you was planted by a man on the syndicate's payroll. Chloe sat back. You're talking about exposing the entire network. Yes. That's suicide. You said these people killed your wife. They killed Sarah because I tried to protect myself. This time, I'm not protecting myself. I'm protecting you. Nathan closed the laptop. They want me? They can have me, but not until I've burned their operation to the ground. Nathan, I'm done running Chloe. I've spent 6 years hiding, 6 years letting them win. Not anymore. The conviction in his voice was absolute. Chloe saw it then. The man he used to be, the director who'd controlled billions, the strategist who'd built empires. What do you need from me? Access to Sterling's internal servers, communications logs, anything that shows Richard's been in contact with external parties. I can get that. But if I log in remotely, they'll trace it. Not if you're using this. Nathan pulled out a small device that looked like a USB drive. Military-grade encryption. Bounces your signal through 12 countries before it reaches Sterling's servers. They'll never know you were there. Chloe took the device. You just carry this around? I carry a lot of things around. She almost smiled. Then she remembered the penthouse, the bodies, the blood. Those men you killed, are they... gone? My team cleaned the scene. As far as the NYPD knows, nothing happened. What about the building security? The cameras? Handled. Your building's head of security is on my payroll. Has been since you moved in. Chloe stared at him. How long have you been planning this? Since the day your grandfather contacted me. Nathan stood, stretched. I knew Richard would make a move eventually. I just didn't know when. So you've been preparing. I'm always preparing. She should have felt violated, manipulated, but all she felt was exhausted. I'm going to try to sleep, she said. Nathan nodded. Third door on the left. There's clothes in the closet if you need them. She walked down the hallway, found the room, closed the door behind her, sat on the edge of the bed, and finally let herself shake. The tears came without warning, not loud, dramatic sobs, but quiet, relentless streams that she couldn't stop. She'd spent 15 years building walls, making herself untouchable, and in one night it had all crumbled. A soft knock on the door. Go away, she said. The door opened anyway. Nathan stood in the doorway holding a glass of water. You should drink something. I'm fine. You're crying. I'm processing. He set the water on the nightstand, turned to leave. Chloe's voice stopped him. Why did you agree to marry me? Nathan paused. Your grandfather asked me to. That's not an answer. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because he told me you were like Sarah, strong, brilliant, stubborn as hell, and completely alone. I'm not alone. Yes, you are. Nathan turned to face her. You've built an empire, Chloe. But you don't have anyone to share it with. No friends, no family, just employees and enemies. He paused. Sarah used to say the worst kind of loneliness isn't being alone. It's being surrounded by people and still feeling empty. Chloe wiped her eyes. And you thought marrying me would fix that? No. I thought marrying you would give you a chance at something different. He leaned against the doorframe. Your grandfather believed you deserved more than what you'd settled for. So do I. You don't even know me. I know enough. They looked at each other across the small room. In the dim light, Nathan looked less like a ghost and more like a man. Tired, scarred, human. Thank you, Chloe said quietly, for saving us tonight. Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. He left, closing the door behind him. Chloe lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Her phone was gone, left behind in the penthouse. Her company was imploding. Her life as she knew it had ended. And somehow, the only person she trusted was a man she'd met 3 weeks ago. She closed her eyes and eventually, impossibly, fell asleep. Morning came too fast. Chloe woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. She found Nathan in the kitchen, laptop open, phone pressed to his ear. I don't care what it costs. Get it done by noon. He hung up, noticed her. Coffee's fresh. She poured herself a cup. What time is it? 7? We have about 6 hours before Richard makes his next move. Which is? Emergency board meeting. He's going to call for your immediate removal as CEO. Chloe's hands tightened around the mug. How do you know? Because I know how he thinks. He's got you on the defensive, your company in chaos. He's going to strike while you're vulnerable. I can't exactly attend a board meeting from a bunker in Pennsylvania. You won't have to. Nathan turned the laptop toward her. We're going to give him something better, a resignation. What? You're going to step down, voluntarily, effective immediately. Chloe set down her coffee before she threw it. Are you insane? Listen to me. If you fight him at the meeting, he wins. He's got the votes, the narrative, the momentum. But if you resign on your own terms, you control the story. I don't want to control the story. I want to keep my company. You can't keep it, not right now. But you can get it back. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong, that she'd built Sterling from nothing and she wasn't giving it up without a fight. But the truth was, she was out of options. How? She asked. Nathan pulled up a document. You resign, citing the stress of the federal investigation and your desire to cooperate fully. You appoint an interim CEO, someone neutral, someone the board trusts. Who? Margaret Chen, your head counsel. Chloe blinked. Margaret would never agree to that. She will if you ask her to. She's loyal. She knows you're innocent. And she's smart enough to hold the line until we can clear your name. And then what? Then we destroy Richard. We expose his connection to the syndicate. We prove the investigation is fraudulent. And when the dust settles, you come back. It was insane, reckless. Everything Chloe had spent her career avoiding. This could backfire. It will backfire if you don't trust me. Chloe looked at him, at the man who'd killed to protect her, who'd given up everything once already. Okay, she said. Do it. Nathan spent the next 3 hours orchestrating the controlled demolition of Chloe's career. He drafted her resignation letter, made calls to board members, carefully planting seeds of doubt about Richard's motives, arranged for Margaret to be briefed on the situation without revealing too much. Chloe watched it all happen, feeling like a spectator in her own life. Lily wandered into the kitchen around 9, still in her pajamas, clutching her rabbit. Where are we? Nathan scooped her up. Somewhere safe, sweetheart. Are the bad men gone? For now. Lily looked at Chloe. Are you okay? The question caught Chloe off guard. No one ever asked her that. In her world, showing weakness was suicide. I'm okay, she said. Lily studied her with the brutal honesty of a 6-year-old. You don't look okay. Despite everything, Chloe almost smiled. I'm working on it. Nathan made Lily breakfast while Chloe retreated to the bedroom to make the hardest phone call of her life. Margaret answered on the second ring. Chloe, where the hell have you been? The board's been trying to reach you for 12 hours. I'm stepping down. Silence. What? I'm resigning as CEO. Effective immediately. I'm appointing you as interim until this investigation is resolved. Chloe, you can't. Margaret, listen to me. Richard is dirty. I don't have proof yet, but I will. Until then, I need you to hold Sterling together. This is insane. I know, but I need you to trust me. Another pause, then Margaret said, How bad is this? Worse than you think, but I'm working on it. With who? Chloe, you've been off the grid for half a day. People are saying you fled the country. I'm still in the States. I just need time. Margaret sighed. Okay, I'll do it, but you owe me an explanation. I know, I'll give you one when this is over. She hung up, leaned against the wall, and tried to breathe. When she came back out, Nathan was typing furiously on his laptop. It's done, she said. Good, because Richard just took the bait. He turned the screen toward her. There was an email thread, internal Sterling communications. Richard was already moving to consolidate power, sending messages to key board members about stabilizing leadership and protecting shareholder value. He thinks he's won, Nathan said. Hasn't he? Not even close. Nathan opened a new window. Bank records, wire transfers, communications between Richard and people Chloe didn't recognize. What am I looking at? Evidence. 3 years' worth. Richard's been on the syndicate's payroll since before he tried to acquire Sterling. They've been grooming him, using him to gain footholds in legitimate companies. Can we use this? We're going to. Nathan started compiling files. I'm sending everything to the SEC, the FBI, and a journalist friend who specializes in financial crime. By tonight, Richard Hale is going to be radioactive. Chloe watched the files upload. What happens to me when they find out I'm connected to you? Nathan paused. What do you mean? I mean, if they dig into Nathan Vanguard and find out he married Chloe Whitmore, won't that make me a target? It would, if Nathan Vanguard existed. He pulled up another file. Death certificate, dated 6 years ago. As far as the world knows, Nathan Vanguard died in a car accident. There's no connection to trace. Then who did I marry? Elias Mercer, a mechanic from Queens with no ties to anything illegal. Chloe shook her head. This is insane. Welcome to my world. The files finished uploading. Nathan sent them, then closed the laptop. Now we wait. Waiting was torture. Chloe paced the bunker like a caged animal while Nathan made call after call, managing operations she couldn't see. Lily played with her rabbit in the corner, humming to herself, oblivious to the chaos. At 3 p.m, Nathan's phone rang. He answered, listened, then smiled. It's done. What's done? He pulled up a news site. The headline made Chloe's heart race. Sterling Logistics board member Richard Hale under investigation for securities fraud and money laundering. She read the article. Every detail Nathan had compiled was there. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, the connection to international criminal organizations. Richard's career was over. The SEC froze his assets an hour ago, Nathan said. FBI's executing search warrants on his office and home as we speak. By tonight, he'll be in federal custody. Chloe sank into a chair. How did you do this? I told you, I still have connections. But you're dead. Nathan Vanguard is dead. Nathan Vanguard is. But the systems he built aren't. He pocketed his phone. I spent 20 years creating networks, relationships, leverage. Just because I disappeared doesn't mean those things stopped existing. So you've been pulling strings this whole time. Only when necessary. Chloe looked at him. Really looked at him. The tired mechanic was gone completely now. In his place was someone harder, sharper, dangerous. Who are you, Nathan? He met her eyes. I'm the man who's going to make sure you get your company back. Her phone buzzed. She'd forgotten she even had it until Nathan handed her a new one. Encrypted. Untraceable. Your contacts are already loaded. She looked at the screen. A text from Margaret. Richard's finished. Board's calling emergency session tomorrow. They want you back. Chloe showed Nathan the message. He nodded. That was faster than I expected. What happens now? Now you go back to New York, you walk into that boardroom, and you take back what's yours. Just like that? Just like that. She wanted to believe him, but something didn't add up. What about the syndicate? You said they were backing Richard. They were. But Richard was expendable, a pawn. Now that he's been exposed, they'll cut their losses and move on. To who? Nathan didn't answer. Chloe's blood ran cold. They'll come after you again. Probably. Then you can't go back. You have to stay hidden. I'm done hiding. Nathan stood. I've spent 6 years in the shadows, 6 years letting them dictate my life, not anymore. Nathan, if they find you, let them find me. I'm ready this time. Chloe grabbed his arm. You have a daughter. You can't just... I know what I have. His voice was quiet but firm. That's exactly why I'm doing this. Lily deserves better than a father who's always running, better than a life built on fear. She deserves a father who's alive. Then I'll make sure I stay that way. They stood there, facing each other. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the compound in shades of orange and red. Finally, Chloe said, I'm going with you. What? Back to New York, to the board meeting, all of it. She straightened. You protected me. Now I'm protecting you. Nathan almost smiled. You don't know what you're signing up for. Neither did you when you married me. He studied her face. Then he nodded. Okay, we do this together. Lily appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Are we going home? Nathan picked her up. Yeah, sweetheart. We're going home. The drive back to New York took most of the night. They arrived at a different safe house, a brownstone in Brooklyn that looked like any other building on the block. Inside, it was fortified like a military installation. Chloe collapsed on the couch while Nathan put Lily to bed. When he came back out, she was staring at her phone, reading message after message from board members, investors, reporters. They all want a statement, she said. What are you going to tell them? The truth, that I was set up, that Richard Hale tried to destroy my company, that I'm coming back. Nathan sat down beside her. And what about us? She looked at him. What about us? The marriage, the arrangement. Your grandfather's will is satisfied. The board's not going to force you out. You don't need me anymore. Chloe hadn't thought about that. In the chaos of the past 2 days, the original reason for their marriage had become almost irrelevant. Do you want out? She asked. I'm asking what you want. She didn't know how to answer that. 3 weeks ago, she would have said yes without hesitation. Would have paid him off, sent him back to Queens, and gone back to her solitary existence. But now, sitting in this safe house with a man who'd killed to protect her, who'd risked everything to give her back her company, she wasn't sure. I don't know, she admitted. Nathan nodded. Fair enough. They sat in silence for a while, then Chloe said, Thank you for everything. You already thanked me. I mean it this time. He looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. Then he stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be hell. He was right. The board meeting was scheduled for 10. Chloe spent the morning preparing with Margaret, going over strategy, rehearsing answers to questions she knew were coming. Nathan stayed in the background, watching, listening, playing the role of supportive husband. When they arrived at Sterling headquarters, reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, questions were shouted from every direction. Miss Whitmore, is it true you fled the country? Did you know about Richard Hale's criminal activities? Are you stepping down permanently? Nathan's security team created a path through the chaos. Chloe kept her head high, her expression neutral. She'd learned a long time ago never to show weakness. Inside the building, employees stopped and stared. Some looked relieved. Others looked terrified. The boardroom was on the 42nd floor. Chloe walked in to find every seat filled. Board members, lawyers, executives. Margaret stood when she entered. Chloe? Margaret. She took her seat at the head of the table. Nathan stood against the wall behind her, silent and watchful. The chairman cleared his throat. Miss Whitmore, thank you for joining us. It's Mrs. Mercer now, she said, and you're welcome. Uncomfortable glances were exchanged. The chairman continued. We've called this meeting to discuss the recent events. The investigation into Sterling Logistics, Richard Hale's arrest, and your resignation. Which I'm rescinding, Chloe said. More glances. I beg your pardon? I stepped down under duress based on fabricated evidence planted by Richard Hale. Now that he's been exposed, I'm reclaiming my position as CEO. One of the board members leaned forward. With all due respect, the damage to Sterling's reputation has been significant. Our stock has dropped 30%. Investors are fleeing, because Richard Hale orchestrated a coordinated attack on this company, an attack that's now been publicly exposed. The SEC has cleared Sterling of any wrongdoing. The investigation is closed. Chloe opened her folder. I have here signed statements from 3 federal agencies confirming that Sterling Logistics was the victim, not the perpetrator. She slid the documents across the table. The board members passed them around, reading in silence. Finally, the chairman said, These are very thorough. They should be. I spent the last 48 hours making sure every detail was documented. Margaret spoke up. The question remains, how do we rebuild investor confidence? Chloe looked at her. Then she looked at Nathan. He gave her the smallest nod. We go on the offensive, Chloe said. We sue Richard Hale for damages. We launch an internal audit to prove our systems are clean, and we announce a major expansion into new markets. What new markets? Europe, Asia. Markets Richard was actively blocking us from entering because it would have exposed his fraud. Chloe pulled out another folder. I have preliminary agreements with partners in Singapore, Frankfurt, and Tokyo, all pending board approval. She'd had those agreements for months, had been waiting for the right moment to present them. This was that moment. The board spent the next 2 hours dissecting her proposal, asking questions, raising objections, but slowly, grudgingly, they came around. By noon, Chloe Whitmore was CEO of Sterling Logistics again. When the meeting ended, she walked out of that boardroom with her head high. Nathan fell into step beside her. You did good, he said. I had help. They took the elevator down in silence. Outside, the reporters were waiting again. This time, Chloe stopped. I have a statement. The crowd surged forward. Sterling Logistics was targeted by criminals who sought to exploit this company for their own gain. Those criminals have been arrested. Their schemes have been exposed. And Sterling will emerge from this stronger than ever. She paused. I want to thank the federal investigators who worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. I want to thank my team for their loyalty during this difficult time. And I want to make something very clear. Sterling Logistics does not bow to threats. We do not compromise, and we do not quit. The cameras flashed, questions erupted. Chloe turned and walked away. Back at the brownstone, Nathan poured them both a drink. Quite a performance, he said. I meant every word. I know. He handed her a glass. But you realize this isn't over. Richard's finished. The investigation's closed. Richard was a pawn. The people who hired him are still out there. Chloe took a sip of her drink. So what do we do? Nathan looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, We prepare for war. War turned out to be a lot of waiting. Chloe threw herself back into running Sterling Logistics with the kind of manic energy that came from nearly losing everything. She rebuilt investor confidence, closed the deals in Singapore and Frankfurt, and personally oversaw the internal audit that proved Sterling's systems were clean. The media called it a comeback. Her board called it a miracle. But at night, in the brownstone in Brooklyn, she and Nathan prepared for something else entirely. The safe house had a room in the basement that Chloe hadn't noticed during those first chaotic days. Nathan called it the Operations Center. It looked like something out of a spy thriller. Wall-mounted screens displaying financial networks, surveillance feeds, encrypted communications. Nathan spent hours down there, tracking patterns in global money flows, looking for fingerprints of the syndicate that had killed his wife. They're too quiet, he said one evening, 3 weeks after Richard's arrest. He was standing in front of a screen showing wire transfers between shell companies. They should have retaliated by now. Chloe looked up from her laptop. She'd been working on quarterly projections, trying to maintain some semblance of normal life. Maybe they cut their losses, decided you weren't worth the trouble. They don't cut losses, they eliminate threats. Nathan zoomed in on a series of transactions. They're planning something. I just can't see what. Lily appeared at the top of the basement stairs, her rabbit tucked under one arm. Daddy, I'm hungry. Nathan checked his watch. 7:30. He'd promised to make dinner an hour ago. Sorry, sweetheart. Let me... I'll do it, Chloe said, closing her laptop. You keep working. She climbed the stairs, took Lily's hand, and led her to the kitchen. Over the past few weeks, she'd learned that Lily liked her pasta with butter and nothing else, that she refused to eat anything green unless it was hiding under cheese, and that bedtime was 8:30 sharp, or the entire next day would be a disaster. These were things Chloe had never imagined herself knowing, had never wanted to know. But somehow she'd started to care. She made mac and cheese from a box while Lily sat at the kitchen table coloring in a workbook. The little girl hummed while she worked, the same tuneless melody she always hummed when she was concentrating. "What are you drawing?" Chloe asked. Lily held up the page. It was supposed to be a house, but the proportions were all wrong and the colors didn't make sense. "It's our home," Lily said. Chloe looked at the crooked rectangle with its lopsided door and rainbow roof. "This place?" "No. Our real home. The one with all the windows." Lily went back to coloring. "I miss it." The penthouse. Chloe missed it too, though she'd never admit it. The brownstone was comfortable enough, but it felt temporary, like they were all just waiting for the other shoe to drop. "We'll go back someday," Chloe said. "When?" "When it's safe." Lily considered this. Then she said, "Are you and Daddy really married?" The question caught Chloe off guard. "Yes." "Why?" "Because you don't kiss." "Married people kiss." Chloe stirred the pasta, not sure how to respond. "Some married people don't kiss very much. That's sad." "It's just different." Lily frowned, clearly unsatisfied with this answer. "Do you love him?" Chloe's hand stilled on the spoon. Did she love Nathan? She'd spent so long keeping everyone at arm's length that she wasn't sure she even knew what love felt like anymore. "I care about him," she said finally. "And you. But you don't love us." "Lily, it's okay." The little girl went back to her coloring. "Daddy says you're scared, but that's okay because everyone's scared sometimes." Chloe stared at her. "Your dad said that?" "Uh-huh. He said you're like a turtle. You have a hard shell because you're protecting what's soft inside." Chloe didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Instead, she drained the pasta and served it with more force than necessary. They ate dinner in silence. Afterward, Chloe supervised bath time and helped Lily into her pajamas. When it was time for bed, Lily climbed under the covers and looked up at her. "Will you read me a story?" "I don't know any stories." "There's books." Lily pointed to a shelf in the corner. Chloe picked one at random. It was about a princess who saved herself instead of waiting for a prince. She read it in a flat, businesslike tone, the same voice she used in board meetings. But Lily didn't seem to mind. By the time Chloe reached the last page, the little girl was half asleep. "Night," Lily mumbled. "Good night." Chloe turned off the light and stood in the doorway for a moment, watching Lily's chest rise and fall. Something in her own chest tightened, an unfamiliar feeling she couldn't name. She found Nathan still in the basement, now on a phone call with someone speaking rapid Mandarin. He switched to English when he saw her. "I'll call you back." He hung up, rubbed his eyes. He looked exhausted. "You should eat something," Chloe said. "I will. In a minute." He gestured at the screens. "I think I found something." Chloe moved closer. One of the screens showed a map with dozens of red dots scattered across Europe and Asia. "What am I looking at?" "Shell companies, all registered in the past 3 months, all with similar ownership structures." Nathan highlighted a cluster of dots in Eastern Europe. "They're building a new network, replacing the one we burned down when we exposed Richard." "So they're rebuilding? That's expected, isn't it?" "Yes, but look at this." He pulled up a different screen, this one showing personnel records. "These companies are all hiring the same type of people. Logistics coordinators, supply chain analysts, people with access to shipping routes and customs protocols." Chloe's blood ran cold. They're targeting shipping companies. Specifically, they're targeting companies like Sterling, mid-sized operations with international reach but not enough security to detect infiltration. "You think they're going to try again?" "I know they are." Nathan zoomed in on one particular company, a freight operation based in Rotterdam. "This one's already compromised. They installed their people 6 weeks ago. By next quarter, they'll control the entire operation." Chloe studied the screen. "Can we warn them?" "And tell them what?" that an international criminal syndicate is taking over their company, they'll think we're insane. So we just let it happen? No, we use it. Nathan opened a new file. If we can track their movements through this company, we can map their entire network, find out who's giving the orders. And then? Then we cut off the head. Chloe sat down in one of the desk chairs. Nathan, this is bigger than us. We should go to the authorities. The authorities can't touch them. These people operate in the gray spaces between jurisdictions. By the time law enforcement gets authorization to move, they've already disappeared. He turned to face her. I've been fighting them for 6 years, Chloe. I know how they work. You've been hiding for 6 years. There's a difference. The words came out harsher than she intended. Nathan's expression hardened. You think I wanted to hide? You think I enjoyed watching them operate while I changed oil filters and pretended to be someone else? That's not what I meant. I had a daughter to protect. That came first. It always comes first. He stood, crossed his arms. But now they know where I am. Now they're coming for me anyway. So yes, I'm going to fight. Because if I don't, this never ends. They stared at each other across the dim basement. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Finally, Chloe said, I put Lily to bed. She asked me to read her a story. Nathan blinked, thrown by the subject change. Did you? Yes. It was about a princess. She likes those. She also asked if we love each other. Nathan went very still. What did you tell her? That I care about you, both of you. Chloe stood. She said you told her I'm like a turtle, that I have a hard shell. Chloe, is that what you think? That I'm just scared? Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I think you've spent so long protecting yourself that you've forgotten what it feels like to let someone in. And you're an expert on letting people in? No, I'm just as bad as you are. He moved closer. Sarah used to say I kept everything locked up so tight that even she couldn't reach me sometimes. That I treated life like a chess game instead of something to live. What changed? She died. And I realized that all my planning, all my control didn't mean anything. I couldn't protect her, couldn't save her. His voice dropped. So I spent 6 years trying to protect the only thing I had left. And maybe I went too far. Maybe I turned into exactly what Sarah was afraid I'd become. Chloe saw it then. The guilt he carried, the weight of decisions made in desperation. You did what you had to do, she said. Did I? Or did I just take the easy way out? There's nothing easy about raising a child alone while hiding from people who want to kill you. Nathan almost smiled. When you put it that way. They stood there in the dim light of the operations center, surrounded by screens and data and the evidence of the war they were about to fight. And for a moment, Chloe saw past the strategist, past the ghost, to the man underneath. He looked lonely. She knew the feeling. We should eat something, she said. I made pasta. It's probably cold by now. Cold pasta sounds perfect. They went upstairs, ate leftovers at the kitchen table in silence. It was comfortable, this silence. Not awkward or strained, just two people existing in the same space. Chloe's phone buzzed. A message from Margaret. Board's happy with Q3 numbers. They're talking about extending your contract. She showed Nathan the message. He read it, nodded. That's good. Is it? A month ago, I was ready to lose everything. Now they're talking about extending my contract. It feels wrong. Why? Because nothing's changed. I'm still the same person who almost lost Sterling. I'm still married to a man I barely know. I'm still living in a safe house waiting for criminals to attack. She set down her phone. How is any of this good? Nathan leaned back in his chair. A month ago, you were alone. You had a company, but no one you trusted. No one who'd stand with you when things got bad. He met her eyes. That's changed. You mean you? I mean us. You, me, Lily. We're a unit now, whether we planned it or not. Chloe wanted to argue, wanted to say this was temporary, that once the threat was gone, they'd go back to their separate lives. But she couldn't make herself believe it anymore. Over the next 2 weeks, Nathan tracked the syndicate's movements with obsessive precision. He identified 3 more companies they'd infiltrated, mapped out their communication networks, and isolated the financial signatures of their operations. Chloe helped when she could, using her knowledge of logistics to spot patterns Nathan might have missed. They worked well together. That surprised her. Sterling's expansion into Europe was moving faster than expected. The Frankfurt office opened ahead of schedule, and the Singapore partnership was already generating revenue. Chloe should have been celebrating. Instead, she spent board meetings distracted, thinking about maps in a basement and the man who was planning to take on an organization that had killed his wife. "You're somewhere else today," Margaret said after one particularly unfocused meeting. They were in Chloe's office, reviewing contracts. Chloe stared at the paperwork without really seeing it. "I'm fine." "You're not. You haven't been fine since you came back." Margaret set down her pen. "Is it your husband?" Chloe looked up sharply. "What?" "Elias. You never talk about him, and when you do, you get this look." "What look?" "Like you're trying to solve a problem you can't figure out." Chloe laughed despite herself. "That's accurate." Margaret leaned forward. "Can I ask you something personal?" "You're going to anyway. Do you love him?" It was the second time in 2 weeks someone had asked her that question. Chloe still didn't have an answer. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I don't know what love is supposed to feel like. It's supposed to feel like you can't imagine your life without them. Like they're the first person you think about in the morning and the last person you think about at night." "That sounds exhausting," Margaret smiled. "It is, but it's also worth it." Chloe thought about Nathan in the basement, tracking criminals across the globe, about Lily asking if they were really married, about the way her chest tightened when she walked into the brownstone and saw them together. "He's planning something dangerous," she said. "Can you stop him?" "I don't think so." "Then help him. Whatever it is, help him. Because if something happens to him and you didn't try, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Margaret left. Chloe sat in her office for a long time, staring at the city through her window. Then she called Nathan. He answered on the second ring. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I want to help, with whatever you're planning. I want in." There was a pause, then Nathan said, "Okay, come home, we'll talk." Home. He'd said it so casually, like the brownstone had always been home, like they'd always been a family. Maybe they had. That night, Nathan laid out his plan. They sat in the basement, just the two of them. Lily was asleep upstairs. The screens glowed in the darkness, casting blue light across Nathan's face. "The syndicate operates through a network of intermediaries," he explained. "Shell companies, offshore accounts, people who don't know who they're really working for. But at the center, there's a core group, 5 people who make all the decisions." He pulled up photos. 5 faces Chloe didn't recognize. Viktor Sokolov, former KGB, now runs their Eastern European operations. Lin Chen, tech genius who manages their digital infrastructure. Maria Santos, money laundering expert based in Panama. James Cross, their fixer. Handles problems that can't be solved with money. Nathan paused on the last photo. And this is Diana Volkov. She's the one who ordered Sarah's death. The woman in the photo was beautiful in a cold, precise way. Sharp cheekbones, ice blue eyes, dark hair pulled back severely. She looked like someone who'd never smiled in her life. "She's the head of the syndicate?" Chloe asked. "She's the heir. Her father founded it 30 years ago. When he died, she took over. Made it more ruthless, more efficient." Nathan's jaw tightened. "She's the one I need to reach. To kill her. To end this." Chloe studied the photo. "Nathan, if you go after her, she'll come after me." "I know, that's the point." He pulled up a map. "Next month, there's a gathering. Once a year, the core group meets in person to coordinate strategy. They move the location every time, but I've been tracking their patterns." "You know where they're meeting?" "I think so. Croatia. A private island off the coast. No commercial flights, no ferry service. Invitation only." "How do you get an invitation?" "I don't. I crash it." Nathan zoomed in on the island. "The security will be tight, but I have people who can get me in. Once I'm there, I confront Diana. I show her what happens when she goes after my family." Chloe's stomach twisted. "This is suicide." "It's a calculated risk. It's revenge. There's a difference." Nathan turned to face her. "You're right. It is revenge. Sarah's been dead for 6 years, and I've done nothing. Just ran. Just hid. Just let them win." His voice was hard. "I'm done letting them win." "What about Lily?" The question hit him like a punch. He looked away. "I've made arrangements. If something happens to me, there's money in a trust. She'll be taken care of." Money isn't a father. I know. His voice cracked slightly. But if I don't do this, she'll never be safe. They'll always be out there, waiting. Better to end it now. Chloe stood, paced the small room. Her mind was racing, running through scenarios, calculating odds. Every instinct she had screamed that this was wrong, that Nathan was going to get himself killed. But he was right about one thing. This would never end unless someone made it end. What if there was another way? She said. There isn't. What if we didn't go after Diana? What if we went after their money? Nathan frowned. What do you mean? Chloe turned to the screens showing the syndicate's financial networks. You said they operate through shell companies and offshore accounts. What if we exposed all of it? Not just Richard's piece, but the entire network. Banks, accounts, transactions, everything. The financial systems are too fragmented. By the time we exposed one account, they'd have moved the money, sis. Not if we hit them all at once. Chloe pulled up one of the screens, started highlighting accounts. You've been mapping their network for weeks. You know where the money flows. What if we didn't just expose it? What if we froze it? Nathan stared at her. You're talking about coordinating with multiple governments, financial institutions, regulatory agencies. That would take months to arrange. Or it would take one very convincing presentation to the right people. Chloe met his eyes. I know people at the SEC, the Treasury Department, Interpol. I've spent 15 years building relationships with regulators around the world. If we can show them a complete picture of the syndicate's operations, they'll move. They'll move slowly. There'll be jurisdictional fights, legal challenges. Then we make it impossible for them to move slowly. We leak it to the press at the same time, create public pressure that forces them to act. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, that might actually work. It will work. Because unlike your plan, this one doesn't end with you dead on an island in Croatia. He almost smiled. You really think I'd die? I think you'd try not to, but going after 5 of the most dangerous criminals in the world by yourself? The odds aren't good. Nathan turned back to the screens, studying the financial networks with new eyes. If we're going to do this, we need to be thorough. One missed account and they'll rebuild. Then we won't miss any. They worked through the night. Chloe called in every favor she had, setting up meetings with contacts at regulatory agencies. Nathan compiled evidence, organizing it into a presentation that would be impossible to ignore. By dawn, they had the skeleton of a plan. It wasn't perfect. There were a dozen ways it could go wrong, but it was better than suicide. Lily found them in the basement that morning, both asleep at their desks. She tugged on Nathan's sleeve. Daddy, you didn't sleep in your bed. Nathan jerked awake, disoriented. Sorry, sweetheart, we were working. Lily looked at Chloe, then back at her father. Is she helping you now? Yeah, she is. Good. She's smart. Chloe woke to the sound of Lily's voice. The little girl was staring at her with those big brown eyes. You look tired, Lily said. I am tired. You should sleep more. Daddy says sleep is important. Your daddy's right. Lily climbed into Chloe's lap, something she'd started doing over the past few weeks. Chloe had been uncomfortable with it at first, unsure how to hold a child or where to put her hands, but now it felt almost natural. Are you going to stay with us? Lily asked. Chloe looked at Nathan. He was watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read. I'm going to try, Chloe said. Good. I like you. It was such a simple statement, such an honest expression of feeling. Chloe felt something crack inside her chest. I like you too, she said. Nathan made breakfast while Chloe got ready for work. When she came back downstairs, Lily was at the table with a bowl of cereal and Nathan was reviewing documents on his laptop. I'm meeting with the SEC at 2, Chloe said. I'll present the preliminary findings, see if they bite. They'll bite. This is too big to ignore. Let's hope you're right. She grabbed her bag, headed for the door. Nathan's voice stopped her. Chloe. She turned. He was standing in the kitchen doorway, Lily's cereal bowl in his hand. Thank you, he said. For this. For helping. We're in this together, right? That's what you said. I know. But I also know what I'm asking you to risk. Chloe thought about Sterling Logistics, about the empire she'd built, about everything she'd worked for. You risked everything to protect me, she said. This is me returning the favor. The meeting with the SEC went better than expected. Chloe walked them through Nathan's evidence, showing how the syndicate had infiltrated dozens of companies across multiple countries. The agents took notes, asked pointed questions, and by the end of the 2-hour session, they were talking about task forces and international coordination. "This is good work," the lead agent said. "Very thorough. Where did you get all this?" "I have sources," Chloe said carefully. "Sources with access to classified financial data? Sources who want to see justice done." The agent studied her. "Miss Whitmore, if we're going to move forward with this, we need to know where this information came from." "No, you don't. You need to verify it, which you can do independently. Once you've confirmed it's legitimate, the source becomes irrelevant." The agent didn't look happy, but he also didn't push. "We'll be in touch," he said. Chloe left the meeting and went straight to the brownstone. Nathan was in the basement, on the phone again. When he saw her, he wrapped up the call. "How'd it go?" "They're interested. Cautious, but interested." She sat down. "They want to verify everything independently before they move." "How long will that take?" "Weeks, maybe months." Nathan nodded. "That's expected. What about the press angle?" "I reached out to a journalist I trust. She's willing to run the story, but she needs multiple sources. I can provide those." They spent the next 3 weeks building their case. Chloe coordinated with regulators while Nathan fed information to journalists. Slowly, carefully, they assembled a trap that would close around the syndicate from multiple directions at once. It was exhausting. Chloe would spend 12 hours at Sterling maintaining the illusion of normalcy, then come home and spend another 6 hours in the basement with Nathan. They survived on coffee and takeout and the kind of manic energy that came from knowing they were running out of time, because the syndicate wasn't standing still. Nathan noticed it first. Small changes in their patterns, money moving more frequently, personnel relocating. They were getting nervous. "They know something's coming," he said one night. Chloe looked up from the regulatory filing she was reviewing. "How can they know? We've been careful. They have eyes everywhere. Maybe they've noticed the SEC asking questions. Maybe one of our journalist contacts got sloppy." He pulled up surveillance feeds. "They're going to move soon, dissolve the network before we can strike. Then we move first. We're not ready. The agencies won't act without verification. Then we force their hand." Chloe stood, started typing on one of the keyboards. "We leak everything. Right now. Give it all to the press, to Interpol, to every regulatory agency in every country where they operate. Create so much noise that they can't hide." "That's reckless. It's the only option we have." Nathan grabbed her wrist, stopping her. "If we do this wrong, we expose ourselves. They'll know I'm behind it. They'll come after us." "They're already coming after us." "Not like this. Right now, they're not sure. We're a ghost they're chasing, but if we go loud, we become a target." Chloe pulled her hand free. "Then we become a target. I'd rather fight them head on than wait for them to strike when we're not ready." They stared at each other. The argument hung between them, neither willing to back down. Finally, Nathan said, "If we do this, there's no going back." "I know. We'll have to disappear. You, me, Lily, leave everything behind." "I've lost everything before. I can do it again." "Have you?" Nathan moved closer. "Because from where I'm standing, you've never lost anything. You've built walls so high that nothing can touch you. But if we do this, those walls come down. You'll be exposed, vulnerable. Are you ready for that?" Chloe thought about Sterling Logistics, about her penthouse with its floor-to-ceiling windows, about the life she'd carefully constructed over 15 years. Then she thought about Lily reading stories before bed, about Nathan working beside her in the basement, about the way it felt to be part of something bigger than just herself. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." Nathan studied her face. Then he nodded. "Okay, let's burn it all down." They worked through the night, compiling every piece of evidence into packages for different outlets. Financial data went to the SEC and Interpol. Corporate infiltration details went to business journalists. Personal information about the Core Five went to investigative reporters who specialized in organized crime. By dawn, they'd sent everything. And then they waited. The first story broke at 9 a.m. A major financial news network ran with the headline, "International Syndicate Infiltrates Dozens of Major Corporations." By noon, every news outlet in the world was covering it. By evening, law enforcement agencies in 12 countries had announced investigations. The syndicate's network began to collapse. Chloe watched it happen from Sterling's offices, watched companies announce emergency audits, watched executives resign, watched stock prices plummet as the truth came out. Margaret appeared in her doorway. "Have you seen the news?" "Hard to miss." "Chloe, some of the companies they're mentioning, we've worked with them. If Sterling gets dragged into this, we won't. We're clean." Chloe stood, grabbed her bag. "I need to go." "Go where?" "Home." She left before Margaret could ask any more questions. On the way to the brownstone, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered anyway. "Hello?" A woman's voice, cold and precise. "Mrs. Mercer, or should I call you Miss Whitmore?" Chloe's blood froze. "Who is this?" "My name is Diana Volkov. I believe your husband knows me." Chloe pulled over, hands shaking. "What do you want?" "I want what's mine. Nathan Vanguard destroyed something that took 30 years to build. I'm going to make him pay for that." "He's not afraid of you." Diana laughed. It was a terrible sound. "He should be. Because I know where you live, Chloe. I know where you work. I know that you have a stepdaughter named Lily who attends PS 118 in Brooklyn." Chloe's vision blurred. "If you touch her, I won't touch her, not yet. First, I want Nathan to know what it feels like to lose everything, the way I just did." There was a pause. "Tell him I'm coming. Tell him that everything he loves will burn, and then, when he's begging me to end it, I'll kill him slowly." The line went dead. Chloe sat in her car, hyperventilating. Then she called Nathan. "Diana Volkov just called me." Silence. Then, "Where are you?" "On my way home. Nathan, she knows about Lily. She knows about the school. Oh, I'm getting Lily now. Meet me at the secondary location." "What secondary location?" "The address is in your phone under Margaret Chen. It's not Margaret. It's a safe house in Connecticut. Go there, I'll meet you." He hung up. Chloe pulled up the contact, found the address, and started driving. Her mind was racing. They'd struck at the syndicate, and now the syndicate was striking back. She drove for 90 minutes, following the GPS to a house in the middle of nowhere. It was bigger than the Brooklyn brownstone, more isolated, built like a fortress. Nathan's SUV was already there. She ran inside. Nathan was in the living room with Lily. The little girl was crying. "I don't want to leave school," she sobbed. "I like my teacher. I like my friends." "I know, sweetheart, but we have to go away for a little while." "Why?" Nathan didn't have an answer. Chloe crossed the room and knelt beside Lily. "Because some bad people are angry at us, and until we deal with them, we need to be somewhere safe." Lily looked at her with tears streaming down her face. "I'm scared." "Me too," Chloe admitted. "But your dad and I are going to keep you safe, I promise." Lily threw her arms around Chloe's neck. Chloe held her, this little girl who'd somehow become part of her life, and felt the weight of what they'd done. They'd started a war, and now they had to finish it. Nathan put Lily to bed in one of the upstairs rooms, staying with her until she finally fell asleep. When he came back down, Chloe was standing at the window, staring out at the dark Connecticut woods. "She threatened a 6-year-old, Chloe said without turning around. "What kind of person does that?" "The kind who has nothing left to lose." Nathan moved to the security panel on the wall, checking cameras and motion sensors. "We knew this would happen." "Knowing and experiencing are two different things." Chloe finally turned to face him. "Diana's going to come after us. Hard." "Yes." "So what do we do? Hide here forever?" Nathan sat down heavily on the couch. He looked older than he had that morning, worn down by 6 years of running and now the weight of having dragged Chloe and Lily into an open war. "I have contacts," he said. "People who can help us disappear. New identities, new country, new everything. We could be on a plane by tomorrow night." "And Sterling?" "Gone. You'd have to walk away." Chloe thought about that. 15 years of work, just abandoned. The company her grandfather had entrusted to her, left in someone else's hands. Margaret would keep it running, probably, but it wouldn't be hers anymore. "What's the alternative, she asked. "We fight. We find Diana before she finds us." "You mean you find her, and probably die trying?" Nathan didn't argue. They both knew the odds. Chloe crossed the room, sat down beside him. There has to be another option, something we're not seeing. If there is, I haven't found it. They sat in silence. Outside, wind moved through the trees. Inside, the house creaked and settled. Somewhere upstairs, Lily was probably dreaming about her old school, her old life, the normal childhood that kept slipping further away. Chloe's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Margaret. I have to take this. She stepped into the kitchen. Hey, where are you? Margaret sounded stressed. The board's been trying to reach you all afternoon. With everything happening in the news, they want a statement. Tell them I'm dealing with a family emergency. What kind of family emergency? The kind I can't explain right now. Chloe rubbed her face. Margaret, I need you to do something for me. If I don't come back. Chloe, what's going on? Just listen. If something happens to me, there's documents in my office safe. The combination is your birthday. Inside, you'll find instructions for transferring my shares to you. I want you to have sterling. There was a long pause. Then Margaret said, very carefully, You're scaring me. I know. I'm sorry. But I need to know the company will be okay. The company will be fine. I need to know you'll be okay. Chloe looked through the doorway at Nathan. He was still on the couch, head in his hands. I'm working on it, she said. She hung up before Margaret could ask more questions. When she returned to the living room, Nathan had moved to his laptop. He was pulling up files, the same obsessive focus he always had when he was planning something. What are you doing? Chloe asked. Mapping Diana's network. If we can't hide and we can't run, we need to know where she is. You've been tracking her for weeks. You said she's too careful. She was careful, but she's angry now. Angry people make mistakes. He highlighted several data points. Look, 3 hours after the news broke, there was unusual activity on one of her known accounts. Small transfers, nothing major, but the pattern's different. Chloe leaned in. Different how? Rushed, sloppy. She's moving assets, probably preparing to go dark, but she's doing it faster than she should be. Nathan pulled up another screen. And here, communications traffic spiked between 3 of her shell companies. They're coordinating something. An attack? Probably. But coordination means vulnerability. If we can intercept those communications, we can find out where she is. Nathan looked at her. It's risky. If we make a move and miss, she'll know we're hunting her. She already knows. She called me, remember? Chloe pulled up a chair. Show me what you need. They worked through the night again. This was becoming a pattern, Chloe thought distantly. Sleepless nights in front of screens, chasing ghosts through financial networks and encrypted channels. She should have been exhausted, should have been terrified. Instead, she felt alive. Around 3 a.m., Nathan found something. There, a communication between 2 of Diana's known associates. It was encrypted, but Nathan had tools that could crack most commercial encryption. The message itself was brief. Meeting confirmed. Tuesday. The usual place. What's the usual place? Chloe asked. Nathan cross-referenced previous communications, pulled up locations. Could be one of 3 cities, Geneva, Singapore, or New York. New York? Chloe's stomach dropped. She's coming here? Maybe. Or maybe her people are. Nathan kept digging. If we can narrow it down, we can set a trap. With what? We're not law enforcement. We can't arrest anyone. No, but we can expose them. Nathan pulled up the contact information for the journalist who'd broken the original story. If we can document Diana meeting with her associates, prove she's still operating despite the investigations, the pressure on law enforcement increases. That's not going to stop her from coming after us. No, but it might slow her down. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was something. Over the next 2 days, Nathan traced communications while Chloe maintained the illusion of normalcy. She had conference calls with Sterling's board, approved budgets, reviewed contracts, all while sitting in a fortified safe house in Connecticut, waiting for a criminal syndicate to make their next move. Lily asked questions Chloe didn't know how to answer. When can I go back to school? And why are we hiding? And is Daddy in trouble? Chloe did her best. She read stories, she made meals. She pretended everything was fine while the world burned around them. On Tuesday morning, Nathan got the confirmation he'd been waiting for. New York, he said, showing Chloe the intercepted message. Tonight, 8 p.m. There's a private club in Midtown where Diana's people meet. High-end, members only, the kind of place where no one asks questions. What's the plan? I go in, document who's there, get proof that Diana's network is still active. You can't go alone. I have to. If they spot you, they'll know we're working together. Chloe grabbed his arm. Nathan, this is exactly what she wants. You, isolated, exposed. It's a trap. Probably, but it's also our only shot at finding her before she finds us. Then let me come with you, as backup. No. Why not? Because if something goes wrong, someone needs to be here with Lily. Nathan pulled free gently. That's you, Chloe. You're her backup plan. The words hit harder than she expected. Somewhere over the past month, she'd stopped being the reluctant stepmom and become something else. Someone who actually cared what happened to this little girl. I don't know how to be someone's backup plan, she said. You'll figure it out. You're good at figuring things out. Nathan spent the rest of the day preparing. He had equipment Chloe had never seen before. Cameras disguised as buttons, audio recorders smaller than a fingernail, devices that could clone security badges. Watching him work, she understood more clearly than ever who he used to be. This wasn't a mechanic from Queens. This was a man who'd built empires and torn them down, who'd operated in shadows and controlled billions. Where did you learn all this? She asked. Nathan attached a camera to his jacket. You don't manage the kind of money I managed without learning how to protect yourself, how to gather intelligence, how to stay 3 steps ahead of everyone trying to take what's yours. Is that what we're doing? Staying 3 steps ahead? We're trying. He checked his watch. I need to leave in 20 minutes. Chloe followed him upstairs to where Lily was coloring in her workbook. The little girl looked up when they entered. Are you leaving again, Daddy? Nathan knelt beside her. Just for a few hours. Chloe's going to stay with you. Lily glanced at Chloe, then back at her father. Will you come back? Always, sweetheart. I always come back. But his voice had a tremor in it, a hairline crack that suggested he wasn't as sure as he wanted to be. Lily threw her arms around his neck. Be careful. I will. He held her for a long moment. Then he stood, kissed the top of her head, and walked out. Chloe followed him downstairs. At the door, she stopped him. Nathan, he turned. If this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, I need you to know. She struggled to find the words. I need you to know that this wasn't a mistake. Any of it. The marriage, the fighting, all of it. It wasn't a mistake. Nathan stepped closer. For a moment, Chloe thought he might kiss her. Instead, he just touched her cheek gently. I'll come back, he said. I promise. Then he was gone. Chloe stood in the empty house, listening to the sound of his car pulling away. Upstairs, Lily was humming. Outside, darkness was falling. She pulled out her phone and called Margaret. I need you to do something else for me. Chloe, what's going on? I need you to send everything you have on the club called Meridian in Midtown. Member lists, security protocols, building layouts. Everything. Why? Because my husband's walking into a trap and I'm not going to let him die. There was a pause. Then Margaret said, I'll send it to you in 10 minutes. Make it 5. Chloe hung up. She went upstairs, found Lily still coloring. Hey, kiddo, I need to go out for a little bit. Lily looked up, eyes wide. You're leaving too? Just for a few hours, but I need you to stay here, okay? Lock all the doors, don't open them for anyone except me or your dad. I'm scared. I know, but you're brave, braver than you know. Chloe knelt down. Can you do this for me? Lily nodded slowly. Okay. Chloe showed her how to engage the locks, how to check the security cameras on the tablet Nathan had left. Then she did something she'd never done before. She pulled Lily into a hug. I'll be back soon, I promise. The drive to Manhattan took 90 minutes. Chloe spent the entire time reviewing the information Margaret had sent. The Meridian Club occupied the top floor of a historic building in Midtown. Members only, invitation required, security tighter than most government buildings. Getting in would be impossible. Unless you had a billion-dollar logistics company with connections to every corporate entity in New York. Chloe made 3 phone calls. The first was to a security consultant Sterling used, a man who owed her several favors. The second was to a board member whose husband was on the Meridian's membership committee. The third was to her driver. I need you to meet me at 47th and Madison. Now. By the time she reached Manhattan, she had everything she needed. A fake membership card, a cover story, and a very expensive dress that she'd had her assistant buy and leave in the car. She changed in the back seat, applied makeup using the rearview mirror, and stepped out looking like she belonged at a place like the Meridian. The club's entrance was understated, just a brass plaque and a doorman in a black suit. Chloe handed him her fake membership card. He scanned it, frowned slightly, then nodded. Good evening, Mrs. Mercer. She was in. The elevator took her to the top floor. The doors opened onto a space that screamed old money. Dark wood, leather furniture, art that probably cost more than most people's houses. Quiet conversations happening in corners, servers moving silently with trays of champagne. Chloe grabbed a glass and started scanning the room. She spotted Nathan almost immediately. He was at the bar, dressed in a suit she'd never seen him wear, looking like he'd been born to this world. Which, she supposed, he had been. She also spotted 3 men she recognized from Nathan's files, associates of Diana's. They were at a table near the window, deep in conversation. And then she saw her. Diana Volkov sat alone at a corner table, a glass of red wine in front of her. She was more beautiful in person than in her photos. Ice cold and precise, like a blade wrapped in expensive fabric. She was staring directly at Nathan. Chloe's blood ran cold. This was a trap. Diana knew he was here, had known he would come. She started moving toward Nathan, trying to stay casual, but she was too late. Diana stood, walked toward the bar, stopped right next to Nathan. Hello, Nathan, she said. Her voice carried across the quiet room. Or should I call you Elias? Nathan didn't move, didn't react. Diana, you've caused me a great deal of trouble. You killed my wife. I gave an order. Someone else pulled the trigger. Diana sipped her wine. But I suppose the distinction doesn't matter to you. Chloe was 20 feet away now, close enough to hear, close enough to see the tension in Nathan's shoulders. What do you want? He asked. I want you to understand something. Diana set down her glass. You can't win. You've exposed part of my network, yes. You've cost me money and resources, but I've been building this organization for 15 years. I have redundancies you haven't even found yet. Accounts you'll never trace. People in places you'll never reach. Then why are you here? Because I want to watch you realize that everything you've done was pointless. That you've accomplished nothing except making yourself a target. She smiled. It was terrifying. And then I'm going to take everything you love, your daughter, your new wife, everything. Nathan's hand moved slightly. Chloe saw the outline of a gun under his jacket. Don't, Diana said quietly. There are 8 men in this room who work for me. You'd be dead before you cleared the holster. Chloe looked around. She couldn't spot them, but she believed Diana. So what now? Nathan asked. You kill me here? No, that would be messy. Instead, I'm going to let you leave. Let you go back to your safe house in Connecticut. Let you think you're safe. Diana leaned in close. And then, when you least expect it, I'm going to take everything, and there won't be anything you can do to stop me. She walked away. Her associates stood, followed her out. Nathan stayed at the bar, gripping the edge so hard his knuckles were white. Chloe moved to his side. We need to leave. He turned, saw her. What are you doing here? Saving your life, apparently. Come on. They made it to the elevator, made it to the ground floor, made it to Chloe's car before Nathan finally exploded. I told you to stay with Lily, and I told you this was a trap. Chloe started the engine. Diana knew you were coming. She was waiting for you. I know. So what was the plan? Let her monologue at you and hope she gave something away? The plan was to get evidence, which I did. Nathan pulled a small device from his pocket. Recorded the whole conversation, Diana Volkov admitting she ordered Sarah's death. That should be enough for law enforcement. It won't matter. You heard her. She has redundancies. She'll disappear before anyone can touch her. Nathan slammed his fist against the dashboard. Then what the hell are we supposed to do? Chloe drove in silence for several blocks. Her mind was racing, running through scenarios. Diana was right. They couldn't win a war of attrition. The syndicate had too many resources, too much reach, but they didn't need to win a war. They just needed to make Diana vulnerable. We need to give her something she wants more than revenge, Chloe said. Like what? Like you, but not dead, alive and working for her. Nathan stared at her. That's insane. Is it? Diana's organization is in chaos. She's lost key people, major accounts. She needs someone who understands global finance, someone who can rebuild what we destroyed. She'd never trust me. She doesn't have to trust you. She just has to need you. Chloe merged onto the highway. What if we approach her, offer a deal? You work for her, help rebuild her network. In exchange, she leaves Lily and me alone. She'll kill me the second I'm no longer useful. Probably. Unless we document everything, every transaction, every operation, build a case so airtight that if anything happens to you, it all goes public. Nathan was quiet for a long time. Then he said, You're talking about going undercover, infiltrating her organization. I'm talking about turning the tables, making her think she's won while we destroy her from the inside. That could take months, years even. Then it takes years. Nathan looked at her. You'd give up Sterling? Your life? For this? Chloe thought about that. About the empire she'd built. About the person she'd been a month ago, cold and isolated and convinced that emotions were weaknesses. I'd give it up to keep Lily safe, she said. To keep you safe, yes. They drove back to Connecticut in silence. When they arrived, Lily was exactly where Chloe had left her, sitting on the couch with her rabbit. You came back, the little girl said. We both did. Chloe sat down beside her. We'll always come back. Nathan disappeared into the basement to work on Chloe's plan. She stayed upstairs with Lily, made her dinner, got her ready for bed. When she tucked the little girl in, Lily grabbed her hand. Are you my mom now? The question caught Chloe off guard. I don't know. Do you want me to be? Lily considered this with the seriousness only a 6-year-old could muster. I think so. You're not like my real mom. Daddy says she was really nice and good at helping people. You're kind of mean sometimes. Chloe almost laughed. I am kind of mean. But you came back, and you keep me safe, so I think that makes you my mom. Something in Chloe's chest cracked wide open. She'd spent 15 years building walls, and this little girl had just demolished them with a dozen words. Okay, she said quietly. Then I'm your mom. Lily smiled and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep. Chloe found Nathan in the basement. He had documents spread across every surface, mapping out how they could possibly infiltrate Diana's organization without getting killed immediately. This is suicide, he said without looking up. You know that, right? Most things we've done in the past month have been suicide. This is different. This isn't just exposing her. This is getting close, becoming part of her world. He finally looked at Chloe. If she finds out we're playing her, she won't just kill us. She'll make it hurt. Then we don't let her find out. Nathan rubbed his face. How did we get here? A month ago I was fixing cars. You were running a billion-dollar company. Now we're planning to infiltrate a criminal syndicate. We got here because your wife was murdered, and my grandfather was a meddling bastard who thought we could save each other. Chloe sat down across from him. Were they right? About what? Can we save each other? Nathan looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, I don't know. But I know I don't want to lose you, either of you. Chloe stood, moved around the table. She did something she'd never done before. She kissed him. It wasn't graceful or romantic. It was desperate and messy and tasted like fear. But it was real. When they broke apart, Nathan said, What was that for? Because if we're going to do this, if we're really going to walk into Diana's world and try to destroy her, I need you to know that this stopped being a business arrangement weeks ago. When? I don't know. Maybe when you killed 4 men in my living room. Maybe when you gave up your plan to die in Croatia. Maybe when I watched you read Lily a story and realized you were the only person who'd ever made me feel like I could be something other than ice. Chloe touched his face. It doesn't matter when. It just matters that it happened. Nathan pulled her close. If we do this, there's no going back. We're all in. Together. I know. And if it goes wrong, then it goes wrong. But at least we tried. They held each other in the dim basement, surrounded by evidence of the war they were about to fight. And for just a moment, Chloe let herself believe they might actually survive this. The next morning, Nathan made the call. He used an encrypted line, routing it through a dozen countries. When Diana answered, her voice was cold. "Nathan, I didn't expect to hear from you so soon. I have a proposal." "I'm listening." "You need someone who understands global finance, someone who can rebuild what we destroyed. I need my family to be safe." He paused. "I work for you. Full access to my knowledge, my contacts, my expertise. In exchange, you leave Chloe and Lily alone." There was a long silence. Then Diana said, "Why would I agree to that? I could just take what I want from you." "You could try, but I've spent 6 years staying ahead of you. You think you can break me? You're welcome to try, but it'll cost you time you don't have." Nathan's voice hardened. "Your organization is bleeding. Law enforcement is circling. You need someone who can stop the hemorrhaging. I'm offering myself. Take it or leave it." Another pause. Chloe could almost hear Diana thinking, calculating odds. "I'll consider it," Diana said finally, "but I have conditions." "Name them. You come alone. No security, no backup. And you do exactly what I tell you when I tell you to do it." "Fine. And if I find out you're playing me, your daughter dies first, then your wife, then you, in that order." Nathan's jaw clenched. "Understood." "Good. I'll send you a location. Be there tomorrow at noon." The line went dead. Chloe had been listening on speaker. "She's going to kill you." "Probably, but she's also desperate. Her network is falling apart. She needs help." Nathan started packing equipment. "This is our shot. What do you need from me?" "Stay here with Lily. Keep her safe. And if I don't check in every 12 hours, take her and run. New identities, new country, everything's already set up." "Nathan, promise me, Chloe. If this goes wrong, you protect her, whatever it takes." Chloe wanted to argue, wanted to find another way, but she knew there wasn't one. "I promise." Nathan spent the rest of the day preparing. He had devices that would transmit audio to Chloe's laptop, cameras hidden in ordinary objects, ways to communicate that even Diana's people wouldn't detect. "I'll send you everything I learn," he said. "Every conversation, every transaction. You compile it, organize it, build a case. And then? Then we hope it's enough." That night, Chloe couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through worst-case scenarios. Nathan dead, Diana finding the safe house, Lily being hurt because of decisions Chloe had made. Around 3 a.m., she got up, found Nathan in the kitchen, also unable to sleep. "Can't shut your brain off either?" he asked. "Not even a little." They sat at the table together, drinking coffee in the dark. "I've been thinking about what you said," Nathan said, "about this not being a business arrangement anymore." "Yeah? I think it stopped being that for me the night at the gala, when you didn't back down from Richard, when you stood your ground even though he was trying to humiliate you." Nathan smiled slightly. "I remember thinking, this woman doesn't need protection. She needs a partner." "Is that what we are now? Partners?" "I don't know what we are, but I know I want to find out after this is over. If we survive. When we survive." Nathan took her hand. "We're going to make it through this, Chloe. All three of us." Chloe wanted to believe him, but she'd learned a long time ago that wanting something didn't make it true. Morning came too fast. Nathan said goodbye to Lily, gave Chloe final instructions, and left. Chloe watched his car disappear down the long driveway. Then she went inside, locked every door, and settled in to wait. The first transmission came at 12:47 p.m. Nathan's voice, slightly distorted by the equipment. "I'm at the location, some kind of warehouse in New Jersey. Security's heavy, at least a dozen armed men." Then another voice, Diana's. "Welcome, Nathan. I'm so glad you decided to join us. Let's skip the pleasantries. What do you need?" "Right to business. I like that." There was movement, footsteps. "Come with me. I want to show you something." The transmission cut out. Chloe waited, heart pounding. 20 minutes later, it came back. Nathan's voice, barely a whisper. "She's setting up a new network. Already has agreements with 4 major shipping companies, planning to route money through them like she did with Sterling." He kept talking, feeding her details. Chloe typed everything into encrypted files, building a timeline of Diana's operations. This went on for 3 days. Nathan would transmit information, Chloe would organize it. Slowly, piece by piece, they were documenting everything Diana was doing, but on the 4th day, something changed. Nathan's transmission came through garbled, static obscuring his words. And when it cleared, Chloe heard something that made her blood run cold. Diana's voice. Did you really think I wouldn't find them? Find what? The cameras. The recording devices. All of it. A pause. You disappoint me, Nathan. I thought you were smarter than this. Chloe's hands shook. She grabbed her phone, started to call him, then stopped. If Diana had found the devices, she had Nathan. Calling would only confirm that Chloe was listening. The transmission continued, Diana's voice calm and cold. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call your wife. You're going to tell her to bring your daughter to the address I give you. And you're going to do it convincingly. Because if you don't, I'm going to start removing fingers until you cooperate. Go to hell. That's not the response I was hoping for. There was a sound, a scream. Nathan's scream. Chloe jumped to her feet, nearly knocking over her chair. Lily appeared in the doorway. What's wrong? Nothing, sweetie. Go back upstairs. But I heard. Now, Lily. The little girl ran. Chloe listened to the transmission, heard Nathan breathing hard through pain. Still want to be defiant? Diana asked. Do whatever you want to me. They're not coming. Then I'll go to them. I know where your safe house is, Nathan. I've known for 2 days. I was just waiting to see how long you'd keep up this charade. Chloe's vision blurred. Diana knew. Had known all along. You have 12 hours, Diana continued. Bring them to me or I come to you. And trust me, you don't want me to come to you. The transmission ended. Chloe stood in the silent kitchen, mind racing. Diana was coming, would be here by morning, and Chloe had a choice. Run, take Lily and disappear like Nathan had told her to, or fight. She looked at the files on her laptop. 4 days of evidence. Not enough to bring down Diana's network, but enough to cause serious damage. Then she looked at the stairs where Lily had disappeared. And she made her decision. She wasn't running anymore. Chloe spent the next hour making calls she'd sworn she'd never make. The first was to Margaret. I need you to send everything we've compiled on Diana Volkov to every law enforcement agency you can think of. FBI, Interpol, SEC, Treasury, everyone. Chloe, what's happening? Just do it. And Margaret, if I don't call you by tomorrow morning, make sure Sterling goes to someone who'll actually care about it, not the board. Someone who remembers what my grandfather built. You're scaring me. Good. That means you're paying attention. The second call was to Nathan's security contact, the man who'd helped them escape the penthouse. I need an extraction team, Connecticut, armed, and I need them in 3 hours. That's expensive. I don't care what it costs. The third call was to a number Nathan had made her memorize. A voice answered in Russian. Chloe spoke carefully, using the phrases Nathan had taught her. This is Vanguard's contingency. I need the failsafe activated. There was a pause. Then the voice switched to English. Confirm authorization. Chloe recited a string of numbers from memory. Another pause. Confirmed. Failsafe will execute in 48 hours unless countermanded. Make it 24. That's not recommended. I'm not asking for recommendations. She hung up. The failsafe was Nathan's final insurance policy. If activated, every piece of evidence he'd ever compiled on the syndicate would be released simultaneously to media outlets and law enforcement agencies worldwide. It was meant to be triggered only if he died. Chloe was triggering it now, because if Diana wanted a war, she was going to get one. She found Lily upstairs sitting on her bed with her rabbit. The little girl looked terrified. Are we in trouble? Lily asked. Chloe sat down beside her. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that her father was being tortured and that people were coming to kill them? Yes, she said finally. We're in trouble. Lily's lip trembled. Is Daddy okay? I don't know, sweetheart, but I'm going to find out. How? Chloe took Lily's small hand in hers. Do you remember what I told you about being brave? Lily nodded. I need you to be brave now. Braver than you've ever been. Some people are coming to help us, and then we're going to go get your dad. The bad people are going to try to stop us. Yes. Are you scared? Chloe thought about lying, but this little girl deserved honesty. I'm terrified. Lily squeezed her hand. That's okay. Daddy says being scared doesn't mean you're not brave. It just means what you're doing is important. Chloe felt tears prick her eyes. She'd spent 32 years avoiding feelings, building walls, convincing herself that emotion was weakness. And here was this 6-year-old teaching her what courage actually looked like. "Your dad's a smart man," Chloe said. "I know." Lily leaned against her. "Are you going to be my mom forever?" "If you'll have me." "Okay, but you have to promise to come back, you and Daddy both." Chloe pulled her close. "I promise." She didn't know if it was a promise she could keep, but she was going to die trying. The extraction team arrived at sunset. 4 men in tactical gear, heavily armed, faces hidden behind masks. The leader introduced himself as Marcus. "We were told you need transport and security. I need you to get me into a warehouse in New Jersey, and I need my stepdaughter somewhere safe." Marcus looked at Lily, then back at Chloe. "Ma'am, with all due respect, taking a child into a combat situation, she's not going into the combat situation. You're taking her to a secondary location, a hotel in Manhattan, presidential suite, registered under a fake name. You stay with her until I call you. And if you don't call, then you get her out of the country. There's a contact in London who will take her. Everything's already arranged." Marcus studied her. "What about you?" "I'm going to get my husband back." One of the other team members spoke up. "That warehouse is a fortress. We'd need a small army to breach it." "Then we don't breach it. We walk in the front door." They stared at her like she was insane. Maybe she was. Chloe explained the plan. It was reckless, built on assumptions and hope, and the slim possibility that Diana's arrogance would work against her. But it was all she had. "This is suicide," Marcus said when she finished. "Probably. Are you in or out?" He looked at his team. They nodded. "We're in. But if this goes wrong, make sure Lily gets to London." They left at 8 p.m. Chloe kissed Lily goodbye, held her longer than she probably should have, then watched the SUV disappear down the dark driveway. The remaining 3 team members loaded into a second vehicle with Chloe. She'd changed into dark clothes, pulled her hair back, and tried to look like someone who knew what they were doing. She didn't, but she was good at faking it. The drive to New Jersey took 40 minutes. The warehouse was exactly where Nathan's last transmission had indicated, a massive structure near the waterfront. Lights blazed inside. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. Chloe told the driver to stop a block away. "Last chance to back out," one of the team members said. Chloe pulled out her phone, opened the recording app, and hit record. "If I don't make it out, make sure this gets to the FBI." Then she stepped out of the car and started walking toward the warehouse. The guards spotted her immediately. 2 of them moved to intercept, weapons raised. "Stop right there." Chloe stopped, raised her hands. "I'm here to see Diana Volkov." "Who are you?" "Chloe Whitmore. I believe she's expecting me." The guards exchanged glances. One spoke into a radio. A response crackled back. They lowered their weapons slightly. "Come with us." They escorted her inside. The warehouse was bigger than it looked from outside, full of shipping containers and equipment. And in the center, like a throne room carved from industrial steel, was an office. Diana sat behind a desk, perfectly composed. Nathan was in a chair across from her, hands zip-tied behind his back. His face was bruised, blood dried at the corner of his mouth. But he was alive. His eyes went wide when he saw Chloe. "What are you doing here?" "Saving your ass, apparently." Chloe turned to Diana. "Let him go." Diana smiled. It was the coldest thing Chloe had ever seen. "I gave him 12 hours. You're early." "I'm efficient. It's what I do." Chloe moved closer. "Here's my offer. You let Nathan and Lily go. In exchange, I give you what you really want." "Which is?" "Sterling Logistics." Diana's expression didn't change. "You're offering me your company?" "Not offering. Guaranteeing. You want a legitimate shipping operation to move your money? Sterling's perfect. International reach, established relationships, clean reputation. I hand it over, you leave my family alone." "And what makes you think I want Sterling now, after you've exposed my entire network?" "Because you're desperate. Your organization is falling apart. You need a win, something to show your people that you're still in control." Chloe leaned against the desk. "Sterling's that win. You get a functioning logistics empire. I get my family back. Everyone walks away." Diana studied her. "You'd give up everything you've built? For them?" "Yes." That's remarkably stupid. Maybe. Or maybe it's the only thing that matters. Diana stood, moved around the desk. She was shorter than Chloe had expected, but she radiated danger. I'll consider your offer, Diana said. But first, I want to make sure you understand the situation. She pulled out a gun, pressed it against Nathan's temple. If you're lying, if this is some kind of trick, I pull this trigger and your husband's brains decorate my office. Do we have an understanding? Chloe's heart hammered. We have an understanding. Good. Diana lowered the gun. Tell me how this works. How do you transfer control of Sterling without raising suspicions? Chloe pulled out her phone, opened a document. I've already drafted the paperwork. Emergency transfer of shares due to personal crisis. The board will approve it if I push hard enough. It'll take 48 hours to finalize. And in those 48 hours, what stops you from warning them? Nothing, except I won't. Why should I believe you? Because I'm not you. Chloe met Diana's cold eyes. I don't sacrifice the people I love for power or money or revenge. I sacrifice the power and money to save them. That's the difference between us. Diana stared at her for a long moment. Then she laughed. It was a brittle sound, like breaking glass. You really think you're better than me? No. I think I'm different. And right now, different is what's going to keep us all alive. Diana turned to Nathan. What do you think? Is she telling the truth? Nathan looked at Chloe. Their eyes met. In that moment, she tried to communicate everything she couldn't say out loud. That the failsafe was running, that law enforcement was already moving, that this was all a stalling tactic. She's telling the truth, Nathan said. Chloe doesn't bluff. Diana considered this. Then she nodded. Fine. You have 48 hours. Transfer Sterling to the shell company I designate. Once the paperwork is finalized and I have control, I'll release you both. What about Lily? The child is leverage. She stays with me until the transfer is complete. No. Chloe's voice was hard. Lily goes free now. You keep Nathan and me. The transfer happens either way. That's not how negotiation works. It is when you're negotiating with someone who has nothing left to lose. Chloe pulled out her phone again. I can call my board right now and tank Sterling's stock, destroy its value completely, make it worthless to you, or I can give you a functioning company worth billions. Your choice. Diana's eyes narrowed. For the first time, Chloe saw uncertainty there. You're bluffing. Try me. They stared at each other. The warehouse was silent except for the distant sound of machinery. Finally, Diana said, The child goes free, but you and Nathan stay, and if anything goes wrong with the transfer, you both die slowly. Deal. Diana made a call, spoke in Russian, hung up. Your stepdaughter will be released within the hour. My people will deliver her to a location of your choosing. Chloe gave her the address of the hotel where Marcus was waiting. Diana made another call, relayed the information. Now we wait, Diana said. The next 48 hours were the longest of Chloe's life. They kept her and Nathan in separate rooms, both under guard. Chloe spent the time on her phone, actually going through the motions of transferring Sterling to Diana's shell company. The board fought her. Margaret begged her to reconsider. But Chloe pushed forward, signing documents and authorizing transfers. It was all real, every signature, every authorization, because the only way to sell the lie was to make it truth. What Diana didn't know was that every document Chloe signed had a back door, clauses buried in legal language that would give law enforcement the ability to freeze assets and reverse transactions. Nathan had helped her draft them weeks ago, back when they were still planning how to expose the syndicate. On the second night, Diana came to Chloe's room. The transfer is almost complete, she said. 12 more hours and Sterling is mine. Congratulations. You've acquired a logistics company through extortion. Your father would be proud. My father was weak. He believed in rules and staying hidden. I believe in taking what I want. Diana sat down across from Chloe. Do you know why I killed Nathan's wife? Chloe didn't answer. Because she was a vulnerability. Nathan loved her, which meant she was leverage. And when he refused to cooperate, I eliminated the leverage. Diana smiled. It's simple math. Remove the weakness, remove the problem. You're insane. I'm practical. There's a difference. Diana leaned forward. You should understand. You've built your entire life on being practical, on cutting out anything that makes you vulnerable. I used to think that way. I was wrong. Were you? Look where loving people has gotten you. You're about to lose your company. Your husband is zip-tied in a warehouse. Your stepdaughter is traumatized. All because you let yourself care. Chloe met Diana's eyes. I'd rather lose everything and have someone worth losing it for than have everything and die alone. That's weakness talking. No, that's being human. Diana stood. We'll see if you still think that in 12 hours. She left. Chloe sat alone in the dark room, wondering if she'd miscalculated, if the failsafe would trigger in time, if law enforcement would actually move, if she'd just sacrificed everything for nothing. At 6 a.m., the warehouse exploded into chaos. Chloe heard shouting, gunfire, the sound of vehicles screeching outside. Guards ran past her door. Someone was yelling in Russian. The door burst open. It was Nathan, no longer restrained. Behind him, men in FBI tactical gear. Come on, he said, grabbing her hand. They ran through the warehouse. Around them, Diana's people were being arrested, thrown to the ground, read their rights. The failsafe had worked. Everything Nathan had compiled, everything Chloe had gathered in the past week, had been delivered to law enforcement exactly on schedule. They burst outside into the dawn light. FBI vehicles surrounded the warehouse, agents everywhere, and there, being led out in handcuffs, was Diana Volkov. She saw Nathan and Chloe. Even in defeat, her expression was ice cold. This isn't over, she said. Yes, Nathan said. It is. They watched her being loaded into a federal vehicle. Around them, the operation continued, arrests being made, evidence being collected, an empire being dismantled. An FBI agent approached. Mr. Vanguard, Mrs. Mercer, will need statements. Later, Nathan said. Right now we need to see our daughter. The agent nodded. We've already contacted your security team. She's safe. They took Nathan's car, drove to Manhattan in silence. When they reached the hotel, Marcus met them in the lobby. She's in the suite, hasn't stopped asking for you. They took the elevator up. Chloe's hands were shaking. They'd survived. Against every odd, they'd actually survived. Nathan opened the suite door. Lily was on the couch, watching cartoons. When she saw them, she launched herself off the furniture and ran. Daddy! Chloe! Nathan caught her, lifted her up. Chloe wrapped her arms around both of them. They stood there in the hotel suite, holding each other, and for the first time in weeks, Chloe felt like she could breathe. I was so scared, Lily whispered. I know, sweetheart, but it's over now. We're safe. All of us? All of us. They spent the next week giving statements, working with federal prosecutors, helping them build cases against every member of Diana's organization. The syndicate didn't fall overnight, but the core was destroyed. Viktor Sokolov was arrested in Prague. Lin Chen turned himself in rather than face trial. Maria Santos disappeared, probably into hiding. James Cross was found dead in a Panama City hotel, an apparent suicide. Diana Volkov was charged with racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 40 other counts. Her trial would take years. She'd probably die in prison. Sterling Logistics survived, barely. The board voted to nullify the transfer once they understood it had been made under duress. Chloe retained control, though several board members resigned in protest. Margaret stayed because Margaret always stayed. You're insane, she said over coffee one morning. You know that, right? I've been told. You almost lost everything. I know, but I didn't. Chloe looked out her office window at the city. I got something better. 6 months later, Chloe stood in the ruins of her old penthouse. The place had been sitting empty since the attack. She'd avoided coming back. Too many memories. But now she and Nathan were planning to move back in, to rebuild it into something new. Nathan came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. What are you thinking? That this place used to be my fortress, my safe space, and I was completely alone in it. And now? Now I'm realizing that safety doesn't come from walls. It comes from the people who stand beside you when the walls come down. Nathan kissed her temple. That's very philosophical for someone who once told me emotions were a weakness. I was an idiot. You were scared. Same thing. Chloe turned to face him. Thank you. For what? For being patient with me, for not giving up when I was too stubborn to let you in. You saved my life, Chloe. Multiple times. I think we're even. They heard footsteps. Lily appeared, her light-up sneakers flashing. She'd convinced Nathan to let her pick the design for her new bedroom. The current plan involved purple walls and glow-in-the-dark stars. "Can we get pizza for dinner?" she asked. "Again?" Nathan said. "We had pizza twice this week. But I like pizza." "What about vegetables?" "Pizza has tomato sauce. That's a vegetable." Chloe laughed. "She's got you there." Nathan sighed dramatically. "Fine, pizza, but you're eating a salad tomorrow." Lily made a face but nodded. She took both their hands, pulling them toward the elevator. As they left the empty penthouse, Chloe looked back one more time. In 6 weeks, this place would be rebuilt, not as a fortress, but as a home, a place where a family lived, her family. She'd spent 15 years believing that success meant being invulnerable, that power came from isolation, that the only person you could trust was yourself. She'd been wrong about all of it. Real strength wasn't about building walls. It was about knowing when to let them fall. It was about finding people worth being vulnerable for. It was about understanding that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was admit you needed help. Sterling Logistics continued to grow. The European expansion was a massive success. The Singapore partnership was generating more revenue than anyone had projected. Chloe was on track to double the company's value within 3 years. But she worked different hours now. Left the office at 6 instead of 10. Spent evenings with Nathan and Lily instead of buried in spreadsheets. Learned that success didn't have to mean sacrifice. Nathan never went back to being Elias Mercer. Nathan Vanguard was officially alive again, though he stayed out of the financial world. Instead, he worked with law enforcement, helping them understand and dismantle other criminal networks. Using his knowledge for something that actually mattered, Lily started therapy. She had nightmares sometimes, memories of her mother's death, and the weeks of fear with Diana's people. But she was resilient. Kids were, Chloe learned. They bounced back in ways adults never could. One night, 8 months after Diana's arrest, Chloe tucked Lily into bed in their rebuilt penthouse. The purple walls were exactly as ridiculous as Nathan had predicted. Lily loved them. "Chloe?" Lily said as she was leaving. "Yeah, sweetheart? I'm glad you married Daddy." Chloe smiled. "Me too." Even though it was fake at first? Especially because it was fake at first. Because it taught me that the best things in life are the ones you don't plan for. Lily thought about this. "Like me?" "Exactly like you." She turned off the light and found Nathan in their bedroom working on his laptop. He closed it when she entered. "How's the monster?" "Asleep, finally." Chloe sat down beside him. "I've been thinking." "Dangerous." "Shut up," she smiled. "I've been thinking about what your wife said, about you treating life like a chess game." Nathan's expression sobered. "Yeah? Was she right?" "Probably. I spent so long planning, strategizing, staying 3 steps ahead that I forgot to actually live." He took Chloe's hand. "That's why I disappeared for 6 years. Not just to hide from the syndicate, but because I didn't know how to be anything except what I'd always been. And now I'm figuring it out. With help." He kissed her hand. "You changed me, Chloe. Made me realize that some things can't be controlled or predicted. Some things you just have to feel." Chloe leaned against him. "I spent 32 years avoiding exactly that. Feelings, connections, anything that made me vulnerable. And then your 6-year-old daughter told me I was like a turtle." Nathan laughed. "She's not wrong. I know, but I'm working on it." They sat together in the quiet bedroom, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere down there, Sterling Logistics was running on autopilot. Somewhere across the ocean, Diana Volkov was sitting in a prison cell. Somewhere in the rebuilt penthouse, Lily was dreaming about whatever 6-year-olds dreamed about. And here, in this moment, Chloe finally understood what her grandfather had been trying to give her. Not a husband, not a business arrangement, not even protection. He'd given her a chance at something she'd convinced herself she didn't need. A family. A home. People who knew her completely and loved her anyway. It hadn't been easy. It had nearly killed them all. But they'd survived. More than that, they'd built something real from the wreckage of 2 broken lives. "Nathan," Chloe said. "Yeah?" "I love you." It was the first time she'd said it out loud. She'd thought it 1,000 times over the past few months, but saying it felt different, more real, more terrifying. Nathan pulled her closer. "I love you too. Even though I'm kind of mean sometimes. especially because you're kind of mean sometimes." They stayed like that until they both fell asleep, tangled together in a bed that was finally theirs. A year later, Chloe stood in Sterling's boardroom, looking at quarterly reports that showed record profits. The company had not only survived the Diana Volkov scandal, but thrived because of it. The publicity had actually helped, positioning Sterling as a company that stood up to corruption. Margaret sat across from her, smiling. "Not bad for someone who almost gave it all away." "I did give it all away. I just got it back." "Think you'll ever do something that reckless again?" Chloe thought about Nathan, about Lily, about the life they'd built together. "Probably. But next time I'll make sure you know the plan first." "That would be appreciated." After the meeting, Chloe left the office early. She had dinner reservations at 7, and Nathan had made her promise not to be late. When she got home, she found Lily in the living room doing homework. The little girl was 7 now, taller and more confident. She'd stopped having nightmares months ago. "Where's your dad?" Chloe asked. "Kitchen. He's making something that smells weird." Chloe found Nathan attempting to cook something that might have been chicken parmesan, but looked more like a science experiment gone wrong. "Should I be concerned?" she asked. "Probably, but I'm committed now." He gestured at the disaster on the stove. "It's going to be fine. We have reservations. I know. But I wanted to try cooking at home, like a normal family." Chloe looked at the smoking pan, then at Nathan's hopeful expression, then back at the pan. "Okay, we're ordering pizza. But Nathan, I love you, but you're a terrible cook. Let's not pretend otherwise." He laughed and turned off the stove. Fair enough. They ordered pizza. Ate it at the table with Lily, who told them about a boy at school who'd pulled her hair and how she'd told him to stop being a jerk. Nathan tried to be serious about teaching her appropriate language. Chloe mostly just felt proud. After Lily went to bed, Nathan pulled out a small box. "What's this?" Chloe asked. "Open it." Inside was a ring, not an engagement ring, they were already married, but a proper wedding ring, the kind people wore when they meant it. "We got married in a courthouse wearing clothes that didn't fit," Nathan said. "We signed papers and shook hands and pretended it was just business. But it stopped being business a long time ago, so I thought, maybe we could do it again, for real this time." Chloe stared at the ring. It was simple, elegant, exactly her taste. "Are you proposing to your own wife?" "I'm proposing that we stop pretending any of this was fake, that we acknowledge what we both know." He took her hand. "I love you, Chloe Whitmore. Not because your grandfather paid me to marry you, not because we survived a war together, but because you're the strongest, most stubborn, most frustratingly perfect person I've ever met. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Chloe felt tears on her face. When had she started crying? "That was a terrible proposal," she said. "I know. You're supposed to get on one knee. We're already married. I think we can skip the formalities. And you called me frustrating." "You are frustrating." "So are you." Nathan smiled. "Is that a yes?" Chloe took the ring, slid it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "Yes, you idiot. It's a yes." He kissed her. Not the desperate, terrified kiss from the safe house. Not the quick goodbye kiss before he left for Diana's warehouse. A real kiss. The kind that promised forever. When they broke apart, Chloe said, "We should probably tell Lily." "Tell her what?" "That we're really married now, for real." "She already knows. She helped me pick the ring." Of course she did. They stood in their kitchen, in their home, in the life they'd built from the wreckage of two broken people who'd been forced together by a meddling grandfather in circumstances beyond their control. Chloe used to think that love was a weakness, that caring about people gave them power over you, that the only way to survive was to stand alone. She'd been wrong about that too. Love wasn't weakness, it was the thing that made you strong enough to face impossible odds. It was the reason you fought when logic said to run. It was the foundation upon which everything else was built. Her grandfather had known that, had understood that all her power and success meant nothing if she had no one to share it with. So he'd given her the one thing she couldn't give herself. A chance. A chance to be vulnerable. A chance to trust someone. A chance to build something bigger than any empire. And she'd almost thrown it away because she was too scared to take it. But Nathan had been patient. Lily had been forgiving, and somehow, despite every mistake and misstep, they'd become a family. Not a perfect family. They argued. They made mistakes. They still didn't know what they were doing half the time, but they were real, and they were theirs. And that, Chloe had finally learned, was all that mattered. The invisible trillionaire and the ruthless CEO, the scared single father and the woman with walls so high she'd forgotten what it felt like to let someone in. They'd found each other in the strangest way possible, and they'd saved each other in every way that counted.